So, are we live here? I think so. We are live. Let me just... Okay, hello next-gen gamers from around the world. This is Archimedes, the video game enthusiast from Germany, with something super special today, my very first live show. And you can hear it in my voice, I'm super excited. Thanks all for coming and stepping by. And before you asked, I've been getting this question a lot up front. It's not going to be a regular podcast as for now. This is a one-time thing for now. We will see where it goes. But since it's my first show, please apologize or some sort of technical hiccups or anything up front. But yeah, with that out of the way, why are we here today? As you all know, the next gen has started. And while we are enjoying the new consoles, I hope everyone is enjoying their new consoles, because I'm still waiting for my PS5. I thought it might be fun to, take a look back to the last 7 years, the generation of the Xbox One and PlayStation 4. This gen has been a lot of fun, there is no doubt about that. And some things have really changed in the gaming industry over the last 7 years. And in today's show, we want to discuss some of the key milestones of the last generation. And of course, we will discuss some of the favorite games for us for the Xbox One, the PlayStation 4, and of course, our third-party games. And to do so, I have gathered a panel of superstars from the gaming community. And I'm really grateful that these fine gentlemen took the time out of their busy schedules to join us here today. So let me introduce you to today's panel. First is someone I consider a good friend from the other side of the pond. He's probably one of the reasons why I started to get into content creation. Because when we met on Twitter a couple of years ago, he approached me and pointed out to me that I do have actual strong opinions about the gaming industry. And he encouraged me to join one of his podcasts. After guesting a few times in 2019, earlier this year, I became a regular panel member in one of his shows, the Xbox Factor podcast. And of course, I'm talking about the one and the only, the podcasting legend, the man who has 3 podcasts each week and puts a ton of effort into making them. My good friend, Mr. Boomstick XL. Thank you so much for being part of today's show, my friend.
Yeah, I got to tell you, brother, for your first show, not only are you doing already fantastic, but you have assembled. This is teaming to take this. I gotta say, this great to what happened. It's great to be a part of the Xbox each. Not a confidence producer, but more importantly, you really do bring a true knowledge to the. I'm happy to see the channel has specific and part of that.
Boom, your audio's bottom.
Yeah.
Just
I didn't want to cut you.
I didn't want to cut you because you said a lot of good things, brother.
Is it me or I'm sorry?
I'm hearing everybody fine, but Boom, I'm hearing bottom.
Maybe try to cut your camera, Boom.
Yeah. Save some bandwidth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I hope it's better now for you.
Yeah, but
it's still doing it a little bit. Maybe we should just come back.
Yeah,
let me jump.
Just reboot the browser. I'll let you back into the show, and we just continue with the introductions. Because next up is someone who is a super positive voice in the gaming community. He not only has a fantastic YouTube channel, which I, by the way, highly recommend. You can find all the links to the YouTubes of the panel members and their websites and so on in the show notes below. But the guy I'm talking about is a genuinely nice guy. I am super proud to have him here today because he puts his focus on indie games. And he is my #1 source for all things indie games. So my good friend from the UK, the indie gamer, great to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much, Archimedes. It is an absolute pleasure to be here. Honestly, you know how much I love you. I'm genuinely, openly happy to admit that, my friend. No, I love all your content, and you are. Thank you very much. You're a very positive guy, and I love all our conversations we have in the DMs and out, in the open in Twitter, and just face to face, and when we get together on podcasts. Like when you came on my one, it was an absolute honor, and it's such an honor to be able to be brought onto yours today, especially alongside such amazing guests, such amazing company, Ains, Cognito, Boom, yourself. It couldn't be a better scenario for me to come along, and little me to just come along and join in. So yeah, thank you for the honor of that, my friend. Let's do this.
Really, thank you for taking the time and being part of today's show. It wouldn't be the same without you. Let's continue here, because next up I have someone very special, who has started a video game news site that I wouldn't miss in today's media landscape, because he built a video game news site that is non-monetized, no ads, no sponsored articles, etc. And therefore I couldn't recommend it more. Founder and CEO of Season Gaming, the man with the basement that is a dedication to gaming, and one of the most positive and passionate gamers I know, Ainsley Bowden. Thank you for joining us today, my friend.
Oh, thank you guys, man. That's hilarious, man. I was just on Cogs on the Lord's podcast last week, and my basement always seems to come up into the conversation, so I can't get away from it. But no, thank you so much, man. I love.
It is a dedication to gaming.
No, it's great, man. As we were talking about, you were on our first live show when we took the Big Cast live, and it's just been an honor to get to know you since last year, and your content's been fantastic, and it's great, man. I'm happy to be here.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being here today. And last but in no way least, the man who actually needs no introduction, a legend in the gaming community for not only being the CEO of the Lord's Gaming Network and host of the Iron Lord podcast, but for being such a super positive gamer, a genuinely nice guy, someone who has making the rounds on the big shows like IGN, and who has had people like Jason Ronald on his show. The man, the myth, the legend, Lord Cognito. Thank you so much for being here today.
Archimedes, man. When I got the call, man, you threw up the bat signal. I was ready, man. I've been waiting to get a part of this.
Awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Like, tremendous. When I seen who was going to be a part of this, there was no way I was missing this. Salute to you, indie gamer. We've been talking a lot as far as, indie games and stuff like that. And obviously, Ains' family. We always rib each other a bit. He's my Sega brother. And Boom, Boom, it says, his friendship truly means a lot in the podcast game. So it's an honor to be here. I love these topics. I love the format, and hopefully you do more than one of these.
I hope so too. It's already a lot of fun, and it has been fun to prepare this show. Mm-hmm. Because today we will talk about some of the key milestones of this generation. But before we do that, I want to let one thing everyone know here. This show here today is not about the whole console war bullshit. Yeah, we are not going to discuss stuff like who has won the generation or stuff like that. I invited all these fine gentlemen here because they all play games on all systems and just love video games. And we are going to reminisce about the good and the controversial things that happened over the last 7 years. But we do that because we love gaming, no matter preferences or whatnot. So I just wanted to get that out there because this show is about celebrating gaming and not arguing over it. And before we are going to start, I want to already catch up on some of the super chats that are coming in. I really super appreciate them. First of all, I want to thank Sean Su for a $2 super sticker. Thank you so much, my friend, and super appreciate it. Then we have Smitty Smith, the man who never misses one of my videos. Thank you so much. He says, congratulations on your first show, Archimedes. Salute to everyone, the Book of X. Yeah, Woo. Smitty, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Then we have Masshole 1977 with a almost $2 super chat. Thank you so much. Congrats on the first show. A great panel and salute. No, thank you so much for the super chat, man. I really appreciate it. And my friend Wandering Dutch is also joining us with a £5 super chat. Congrats on the superstar lineup for the first live show, brother. No, thank you so much for making it here. I'm part of his podcast every Wednesday, the midweek mix-up podcast, and I have to make sure on the next show you are invited here, my friend. And we have Hertog, Vincent. Yeah, well, I can't get behind that statement. Pineapple is on pizza is not a crime. Enjoy the first show. Yeah, it is a crime. My man.
Talk to him, Hertog. Educate him.
Yeah. No, thank you so much.
I'm okay with the pineapple. I forgot to chime in on Twitter, by the way. I'm okay with the pineapple. I'm sorry to say.
We'll get Archimedes there eventually. We'll get him there.
All right. Thank you so much for the super chat. And then we have Marian with a super generous super chat. Let the show begin. Yeah, we will. And we will do that right now after the next one. Dude, these are coming in. Jay, my friend from the Netherlands. Congrats on your first live show, my friend. Well, thank you so much. Okay, and then we have David Guarzone with a super generous super chat of $20. Thank you so much, my friend. Super appreciated. All right, and now let's start with today's show. What are we going to do? I asked every panel member here to prepare a list of the top of their respective top 3 Xbox One games, their top 3 PlayStation 4 games, their top 3 third-party games, and of course their respective pick of the game of the generation. But before we go through the lists of our favorite games, I want to discuss with you some of the milestones of this last generation, some of the things that happened or got introduced to the gaming world. And so let's get back into the year 2013, the launch of the generation. Well, we remember all too well how it went for the Xbox One with the mixed messaging about TV, and the focus on the digital distribution. And this whole generation, Microsoft tried to turn that ship around, but we will get to that later. I want to talk to you about the launch and the launch lineup. Let's have a look here. With which games did the console launch? The Xbox had games like Crimson Dragon, Dead Rising 3, Forza Motorsport 5, Killer Instinct, and my favorite, Rise Son of Rome. PlayStation 4 had games like Killzone Shadowfall, Knack, my favorite, Resogun, Contrast, Super Motherload, and a couple of more indie games. And I know taste is different, but both systems had games when they launched. There's no denying that. So I want to get your opinion on the launch lineup and how you, how you experienced the console launch. Were you satisfied with the launch? Lord Cognito, would you do us the honor to give us your opinion first?
Yeah, I mean, console launch is always an exciting time. I mean, I remember I was working nights and the launch went down at midnight and I rushed over to the local GameStop, make sure I secured my console. It was exciting because, I mean, we had the birth of Kinect and we had a lot of stuff going on. But as far as launch lineup specific to your question, yeah, I believe I picked up Forza Motorsport, Rise Son of Rome. I even picked up Fighters Within for the Kinect.
Oh, yeah.
I picked up Fighters Within. I was just excited. I mean, at the time, the 360 had, really Kinect took off on the 360 and it was a successful thing. So at that point, my excitement for the future of an HD camera and, all these better tracking sensors. And, I'm a guy that likes fitness. So I'm like, hey, let's do the Fighters Within. Let's do the Xbox Fitness stuff. And
hey, Xbox Fitness was good.
It was really good.
It really was.
Bro, I was dedicated to Xbox. I had a routine.
Me too. I have achievements and everything.
I got I was literally saddened when that got discontinued because I use it. And I was a very proponent of Xbox Fitness games. EA had one, EA something, and then that. But yeah, for me, to make it short, because I know we got a lot of show, the lineup was really exciting, and Dead Rising was another one, I believe, that just the amount of NPCs on the screen, and it just got you excited about what couldn't get done last generation. So that's what that launch lineup means to me.
Yeah, definitely. It's always exciting times. When I think back, but we get to that a little bit later, but it's so weird that I only had like 2 games on each console when it launched. Yeah, if you compare that to the current console launch, it's so different. So, Mr. Boomstick, how did you experience the launch of the last consoles?
Well, first of all, how does my mic sound?
Oh, you're great, brother.
You're sounding great.
Oh, you're fantastic.
Excellent. Yeah, we had a storm here in New Rochelle, and I had to reset everything, so that's why I was jumped out. But thankfully, I'm back, and I sound good. Listen, here's the thing. Like Cognito said, and because we're old school cats, and I think everybody here kind of falls into that category. I remember just getting one game with your console, and it was the packing game, because most of the time you were saving up your allowance, selling your GI Joes, or asking mom and pop for the extra loot to get your console. When we got older, that's when I started working overtime for games. Like I literally worked overtime just for gaming, and I would buy everything at launch. Very similar to what I did with this launch. The only difference is, now because we're spoiled with Game Pass, we didn't have to buy so much. We had to buy some things, just not everything. The 2013 launch, in my opinion, might be one of the best launches in Xbox history. Again, that's my opinion. Because if you look at the different genres that were there for you as a gamer, you had a racer, you had a fighter in Killer Instinct, you had a third person over the shoulder cinematic game, you had a goofy zombie game. I mean, there was something for everyone there. And listen, I know a lot of people hate on the Kinect. Let me tell you something. Some of my biggest and most fondest memories of my nephew were with some of the Kinect games. Like I really, really dug those games, and a couple of smaller ones. Like I know no one remembers this. Loco Cycle was I really enjoyed that. Yeah. And of course, Crimson Dragon's successor. It was. I mean, listen. I walked away with not knowing what I was going to play. I mean, I think that when you look at the launch for the Series X, it's why it's a little hurtful when they look back to 2013, exactly what they had.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah, true. Yeah, Indie Gamer, how did you experience the launch of the last generation? You there?
And he's awake.
I think he might have muted himself. So let's just go to Ainsley then straight away.
Hey, so we're talking about just Xbox not 360, Xbox One.
Yes.
Yeah. So
and PlayStation 4, of course.
Okay, so yeah, for Xbox, did midnight launch. I usually do. I'm one of those old school guys, as Boom was referring to, right? I love to be there with other people, picking up those consoles with fellow gaming brethren, and just having those conversations that you have at launches. So picked up the Xbox One, got my Xbox One shirt, and nice. I don't know if they remember, they gave you that little, if you were one of the first people to buy it with Live, you could buy that little silver plaque you got with your Xbox One, and picked up.
You always get such nice things over there in the US. Here in Europe, you get the console, and there you go.
Yeah. But no, I loved it. I was actually one of those that liked the direction Xbox was going. I didn't mind Kinect. I thought Kinect was a cool idea. The games we're not going to go down that rabbit hole, right, that we could get into. But I liked the direction they went, and I was kind of ashamed when they pulled back from it so hardly. I think they did need to make some changes, but they pulled back from it really, really stiff. But yeah, man, Dead Rising 3 was a big one for me because, as Cog said, it had hundreds of zombies on screen, which was new. You couldn't really pull that off previously. And I used to play that in co-op with a friend, and you just jump in a bulldozer and run down, hundreds of zombies. And I still have game clips saved on my Xbox profile from 2013 from those games.
Factual.
Rise gets called out even today as needing a sequel, right? So those are great games. I thought Xbox One was a good launch in my opinion, and I really enjoyed it. Boom called it out right. I think the difference with the Series X is so impressive from a hardware and service perspective, right? But you don't have that same feeling as it being completely new with new experiences. PlayStation 4 was pretty similar. I didn't buy too many games at PlayStation 4's launch. It was more about the promise of what was coming, right?
Yeah.
I played Xbox definitely more at launch, over the course of the generation. But, I obviously like the PlayStation 4. I like some of the changes they made compared to the PS3, because the PS3 was a little bit of a letdown for me personally.
Me too.
But I thought they corrected some of that with the PS4. So, yeah, man, I really enjoyed this generation, or that generation, now last generation.
The last generation.
Yeah.
Yes, it was definitely a fun start. And before we hopefully can now get to the indie gamer, I want to catch up on some of the super chats. First of all, Smitty Smith with another super generous super chat. Thank you for celebrating the love of gaming and this panel, and the chat is just fantastic. The Book of X. Yeah, thank you so much for being here, and I really appreciate the super generous super chat. Then we have Wakanda Xbox News Today. Remember, it's fantastic gaming on all this plastic. We are all gamers. Yes. Definitely 100%. And then we have Dan the Man Cunningham. Congrats, Boxenberger, working but in stealth mode. Had to stop in and wish you all well. Well, thank you so much for tuning in and listening. Good luck with working. Hope your day goes over soon. And then we have, where's the super chat? They are going by so fast here. Psychonauts8 with a super generous $2 super chat. Congrats, brother, on your first show and amazing panel. Yeah, well, thank you so much. And yeah, I am really, really happy that I was able to gather such a fantastic panel here today. And then we have the Kilted Gamer, break a leg, but thank you so much for the super generous £5 super chat. I super appreciate it. Okay, and Optimus Code is stepping by here. Xbox sucks.
Come on.
I was wondering when that turns up. Thank you so much, my friend, for the super generous $10 super chat. He is, of course, kidding. He's a really, really great guy to follow on Twitter. Always love his tweets and not taking everything too serious. Yeah, well, so Indie Gamer, you're back.
I am sorry, but I muted on the mic as well for some reason. I don't know why I did that, to be honest. I forgot that I muted on the
all
mic.
The time. I usually only mute on the mic and never in the software. And sometimes when you switch tabs, the software mutes you, and then I just forget that it's muted. So no worries. So how did you experience the last generation, the launch?
So I didn't jump on day one on the Xbox One. I'm tend to be a little bit cautious. Like I'm this different scenario this time because I'm playing more on PC now. So I haven't gone into the next gen consoles this time because I'm happy with the PC. I've got the One X still. But going back to Xbox One, when that kicked off, I had the 360 obviously, and I remember like Assassin's Creed Black Flag. I believe that was like a cross-gen title. Yeah, that was like there was tons of comparisons on that game, and I was weighing it all up. You know, I'm a bit of a cautious gamer. I don't know, with my money and stuff. But yeah, I was weighing it all up, and like Forza Motorsport 5 as well, which is a huge game. I love the Forza games. And yeah, I remember like the comparisons and sort of like seeing, is this going to be a good investment? And I tend to, like I say, not always go in on day one. I haven't gone on day one. I will get a Series X down the line at some point too, but the problems sometimes that can occur on day one and stuff, sometimes I just like to just sit it out a bit and then pick it up a bit later down the line. But yeah, I mean the launch lineup was it was good. It was varied and diverse, which is always a good thing. The thing with launch lineups and generational crossovers and stuff is like even back then I would say this now, but back then as well I would say it's that generations are much different to what they used to be like back in the days of like the Mega Drive and stuff like that. You lose your games, you move from one to the other. You've lost all your old games, kind of thing, and you have to keep the old console if you want to keep playing those games. But now it just like moves with the times. You just kind of upgrading in a way and carrying your games across. So I don't put too much emphasis on launch lineups, but they're exciting and it gives that buzz for day one and stuff. But yeah, there was some good games there. Like I say, like Assassin's Creed. I was a big fan at the time of Assassin's Creed, so that was a game very much on my radar. And now it's changed quite a bit, Assassin's Creed. But like in the earlier days, I was all over those games a lot more. But Assassin's Creed has evolved and it's become something different, but something still awesome. But it's slightly lost its identity. But I'm not going to go off topic too much because we want to move forward, I'm sure. But yeah, I hope that answers it.
The thing is, you're right. Assassin's Creed has moved on. I really appreciate it, but I know that it is very controversial. And one thing we have to give Ubisoft credit for, they always have an Assassin's Creed game ready when a console launches.
True. That's a good point. Yeah,
they had it for the Xbox One and PlayStation 3. They had it when the Xbox One X came out, and they have it now for the PlayStation 5 and the Series X. So they always seem to have these huge open world games ready. And but thank you so much for your take. And yeah, I want to move on to the next topic. So this was just a warm-up here. And now we get into one of the things I think that really defined the generation for me, especially in the beginning of the last generation. And that is was the rise of indie games on consoles. It's not that we didn't have indie games before on consoles. I remember the Summer of Arcade program on the Xbox 360, for instance, But especially Sony was heavily advertising indie games in the very beginning of the generation and bringing them really on focus on consoles. And Xbox was following really soon by starting the ID at Xbox program and initiatives like early access on consoles, which we didn't have before. We only had that on PC via Steam. And now at the end of this generation and the beginning of the new one, indie games are part of our everyday console experience. So that's why I'm super happy, by the way, Indie Gamer, that you are part of this show today. Because you can't talk about the last generation without mentioning indie games and their rise on consoles. So what's your take on the importance of indies over the last few years and for the gaming community?
Oh, it's massive. Obviously, especially from my point of view, I love indie games so much, as you know. But they're massively important. They're becoming more and more important. We're seeing, as recently, the game of the year top list. We had Hades in there as an indie game, and not just indie game of the year, and potentially it could even win it. And hopefully, you never know. But that would be quite something. That'd be quite a story if an indie game won game of the year. But anyway, digressing every time I speak. I'm sorry. But yeah, no. I definitely think I think indie games have really grown up, especially things you focus on the Idea Xbox program that has evolved massively throughout the whole of the gen. It started in I think it was late 2013, and we talked about it on the podcast a few podcasts back, a few months back, and about the Idea Xbox hit the milestone of 2,000 games shipped through the program in 2020. I think early 2020 it did that. So that's a massive deal that they've basically started out in, like I say, the end of 2013, grown so much that actually I've got a little graph here which I was referring to, which I used on the podcast before, but they've shipped 1,000 games by 2018 through the Idea Xbox program, and then from 2018 to 2020 another 1,000 games were shipped. So the milestone of 2,000 Idea Xbox games was shipped by 2020. So within that last 2 years, that you can see the massive growth from that time. So Xbox are doing a fantastic job of supporting those smaller games, allowing them to self-publish through the Idea Xbox program, or of course if they prefer to use their own publisher too, that is cool. But yeah, it's fantastic to see. Indie games are becoming more and more accepted. Sometimes it's a shame to see when people kind of just overlook them. And I think I think more and more people are becoming open to them. It's good to see them in like I say, in Game Awards and stuff. There's categories that, I mean, a lot of people have a lot of bad things to say about the Game Awards, but they do have the categories of debut game, which supports indie games. So that's fantastic to see. Their first game is up, they've made, and it gets put into that category, and also indie game category as well. And yeah, they do things like that. So I think that is a big deal and a good thing to get them in the limelight. But yeah, like, it's just great to see that the smaller guys are getting into some of the spotlight, and they're able to take more risks on the game, just because they've got less people talking from above, the investors and stuff. So indie games are able to do as they please and carry through their vision, essentially. But yeah, so it's good. It's awesome to see. I hope I'm answering the question. So I'm just going off a tangent.
Yes, you do. You do good.
Thank you.
I'm glad you bring up the Video Game Awards. it's really cool to see that these smaller games developers really get the attention in these big shows now, and we've seen basically in every big gaming show a sizzle reel trailer for the indie games, and that's really a great thing. So
definitely.
Boom, what's your take on indie games? I know you have started with a couple of them on the Series X already, so yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll say this. First of all, I love the fact that they have a place in gaming. One of the travesties of justice for gaming is how people snub their nose at something that doesn't have a AAA next to it. And if you are one of those gamers, shame on you. Shame on you, because you miss out on so many incredible smaller stories. And I think that I would consider them to be snobs of gaming. Just because Call of Duty makes a bazillion dollars doesn't make it any more important than a game that I played. I was actually haven't had the honor of reviewing, and that's Raji. That game is incredible. When I tell you what a great story about family, about religion, about responsibility, about it just I mean, talking about it gave me goosebumps. And Ains mentioned something really important. It's almost a shame that we never saw Summer of Arcade return. Some of Xbox's most important games in the history of the Xbox One were made on those consoles. What was made during that time. I mean, they went from 2008 through 2013, and I mean, like, for instance, my favorite year happened to be let's see, what year was that? That was 2013. You had Deadlight, Dust, and Elysian Tale. That game was made by one dude.
Yeah.
Okay. You had Hybrid, you had Tony Hawk's Pro Skater HD that was redone. You had Racketeer, one of the most underrated Kinect games that all you did was just it was just incredible. So getting to what I really love about what specifically Microsoft does is how they lift up these smaller devs. Like 20 years ago, you would have never seen a Cuphead in the, you know what I'm saying? And look where that game is now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's great to see them, thrive on consoles that just were released. But I will say this: I don't know if anyone from Sony or from Nintendo or from Microsoft are listening. You need to do special events for these indies. You cannot throw them to the wolves and just throw them in the list of Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, Dirt 5, and expect people to run to your games. You need to have special events. And if Phil is listening, anyone, and maybe Aaron's listening, maybe Larry's listening. Get on someone's ass, man, and seriously let them know about bringing back Summer of Arcade, because you had an opportunity to really showcase some of these smaller titles.
Yeah.
And now you've taken that away, and you've literally thrown some of the greatest titles that no one will ever play into the big boy ring with AAA games. And I find that to be terribly unfair.
I feel you, brother.
Absolutely. Lord Cognito, let's go to you next first. What is your take on the indie scene and the importance of indies on the consoles now?
Yeah, I mean, this is a great topic. I mean, excuse me. Indie gamers said it best too. Like, I just love when they're given the spotlight, because one of the highlights of when we go to the conventions and the PAXs and things like that, I actually love talking to indie developers, hearing the stories, hearing the struggle just to get the game out. And then also you get a little bit more creative freedom when they're not beholden to sometimes the bigger publisher and things like that. And I just love to see it. So for me, the way the generation started off, I believe we got to salute PlayStation first, because, they were very aggressive. In the beginning of the generation, I remember games like Resogun and Abzu I had at launch, and it took it.
Contrast was also
Contrast was a great one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, with the light and the dark. Yes, that was a great one. And one thing that it really helped is, again, competition is good, because then it helped propel Xbox to say, okay, we need a proper ID at Xbox program to really celebrate these indies. And like Boom said, that helped catch them up and get them into the mix, because to me, some of the greatest stories you've never told or never seen have come from indie games. So yeah, man, it's something that's very important to me. I think in this generation we've seen some outstanding standouts. You're seeing Hades right now being talked about. I mean, Disco Elysium, I had the Messenger developers talking to them. I've got a couple other indie games that I would like to schedule on Iron Law Podcast. We try to do them for at least like every other month, at least, to show spotlight on these guys, because again, the stories, and not only that, high quality and production value is actually really good. So yeah, indie games, definitely the resurgence, definitely a huge part of this gen. And yeah, we gotta support them. I'm with Boom. We got to support. They need a proper place where they're just not thrown in a quick scissor reel during a convention and then forgotten about. So I'm with Boom on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And glad you mentioned that we need to pay attention to these indies. So I want to tease something here. Everyone who loves indies should stay tuned. On my channel, I do have something very special coming up before the Video Game Awards. I can't say more, but everyone who loves indies will be pleasantly surprised. But yeah,
let's go. That sounds like an exclusive, Archimedes.
That is something really. 2 days ago, something happened behind the scenes. I'm really, really proud of and happy to share very soon. Yeah, but before we go to you, I want to read just one more super chat from Optimus Code again, another generous $5 super chat. How can you say that, Boom, when you both and Lord Cock run AAA podcast? AAA forever. I kid. Gotta love these indies. I agree. Yeah. Thank you so much for the super chat. Okay, Ains, yeah, what's your part of this or take on the indie scene?
Yeah, I mean, these guys pretty much covered most of the aspects. I was going to mention Resogun at the PS4 launch, which was probably their best game.
Yes, agreed. 100%.
Yeah. And Cuphead, not to get ahead of yourself, but it's one of my favorite games. People who know me know I'm a Cuphead fanatic. So, but I think two things I will just call out that they kind of touched on at a high level is, Cog spoke eloquently around supporting those developers and what it means to those smaller groups, especially when they oftentimes don't have a big publisher, right? Mm-hmm. And what happens is when you see an indie game like that take off, it does two things, right? It takes that company, that developer, that group, and can grow them into these major studios in the future that we love, right? But it also encourages other small developers to follow that same path. And that cycle of game development is very important to the industry. It's what gets people involved. The other thing is, and you guys touched on too, is curation. That's a real struggle for smaller titles that don't have the big name publishing and advertising. And Steam has faced that issue. As Steam grew and all these smaller games kind of came up, they really struggled with curating them, right? And getting them in front of an audience. And we see that now on the console side as the indies have grown there too. And I think that's where a service like Game Pass is huge, because Game Pass gives you that automatic avenue for someone to not only, or for Xbox to highlight the game, but to allow people to play games without any risk that they may normally not. And that can benefit indies far more than AAA games. Yeah. So just call those two things out. I agree with everything else the guys already touched on, so I won't harp on it. But yeah, man, I'm a huge fan of all games. I love that. I think it was Boom that said that indie games are now on that same level. They're just games, right? It shouldn't really just be, this is a tiny game, this is a AAA game. There's just games. And I love seeing it that way, because some of the best games we get every year are smaller developers. Yes. It's just true. I mean, I think Indie Gamer mentioned Hades is one this year people are preaching to me, like, you got to play that game. I haven't played it.
Doing the same. So I was doing the same to me. We were doing the nominees yesterday. He was selecting it in almost every category against all these bigger games. I'm like, okay, I gotta play it now.
I have downloaded it on the Switch. I didn't have the chance.
I downloaded it. I got it on the Switch. I gotta play it.
It's time.
It's amazing.
I've heard it's incredible from pretty much everyone. So it's just there's plenty of examples, but I think you guys covered it otherwise.
Yeah. just one more super chat coming in from May Suku. $5 super appreciated. Game Pass and indies is a mix made in heaven, like this podcast. Yeah, thank you so much for that super chat. And yeah, Ainsley, that's basically what you said. It's a great combination to have Game Pass and the indies. But also on the PlayStation side, like Lord Cognito said, we have to thank them because they really advertised these indies in the beginning of the generation on their system. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't have gotten this idea at Xbox program like we have it today. So, but I want to move on to the year 2015. During the E3 Xbox conference, something was announced that, as it turns out, was a bigger deal to the console gaming industry than we might have thought at the day when it got announced. Any ideas what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to assume, am I going to guess BC back?
Yeah, backwards compatibility.
100% correct.
Yeah, I was there for this. I was there. I got a lot to talk about with that.
God, has that been 5 years? I didn't realize.
You know how I know? It was my first E3.
Man,
nice.
Yeah, I mean that crowd reaction was something.
Brother,
remember.
I'm telling you right now. Boom. I mean, Ains, Boom. I know Xbox didn't have the greatest generation, so to speak, but I will never forget the crowd reaction when and it came from left field, from nowhere expected it. And I just looked over at Bill Stillwell and said, "You guys hit this. How is it possible?" You know what I'm saying, kind of thing. So I come from the old, Ains. I come from the Sega era.
Oh yeah.
You had to have the existing hardware as a component. Whether it be the Genesis with the Z80, the power base converter.
Whoa.
Come on, we talking, baby.
Now.
Let's talk. You know what I'm saying? Like, we come from that era where you had to have some physical component of the old hardware in the new hardware, thus to play the game. So when he's talking about virtualization, and I'm just like, how is this possible? So Archimedes, you on it, man. That was a special year for me. I was my first E3. I'll never forget the crowd reaction when that was announced, that you could play all your 360 games, or the majority of them at the time, on the Xbox One. It was a huge deal.
I can imagine. I was watching it, of course, in the live stream, sitting in front of the TV, and I really looked over to my buddy. We had a couple of beers, and this is not happening. This is not happening. It is really great because it is something atypical in the console business to have backward compatibility. I know that other consoles had that before. The PlayStation 3 launched with back compat, but they took that away. Just stripped it from the system. So that really tells you how much focus was put on backward compatibility on consoles. And Xbox also did it a little differently because not only did the games now, the 360 games and later the OG Xbox games run on the consoles, but they got enhanced, especially when later the One X was introduced, the enhanced console was introduced.
Yes.
And I mean, now in the beginning of this generation, I don't think anyone can think of not having back compat on either of the systems. It became for Microsoft one of the biggest selling points to have that at launch. And even Sony, even though they stated stuff a while ago like who wants to play old games, they do have a great backward compatibility now. We can play the PlayStation 4 games on the new consoles, and I'm loving that my library comes with me and I'm not losing that again. So and considering our first topic of the launch lineup, can you imagine just having 1 or 2 games now on your Series X or PlayStation 5? It's really, really weird to think about. So, Lord, Cognito, do you have anything to add? You already elaborated a little bit on the back compat and how you, on your reaction of hearing it for the first time.
You touched the soul. You touched the soul there. No, I mean, I mean, pretty much you said everything. The only thing I would say is kind of like just to reiterate what we said in reference to PlayStation 4 setting the trend with indies. I do feel Xbox needs to get the credit for making back compat a stable and making that consumer friendly transition, so that thus PlayStation done kind of shifted their position as now aggressively taking that stance to support back compat now with the PS5 to PS4. And I think, again, that's where competition is good. Each one has their own vision and direction, but both kind of peeled into the same way. So I do like that. I feel back compat did that as well.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Ainsley, you got anything to add?
Yeah, I just I think you guys covered it, man. That's where competition, as Cog just said, is good, right? They force each other to be better, and we've seen that across the generation. I would also add to just further the applause that Xbox is getting is they haven't stopped, right? Like what we're seeing with the Series X is when you really get into the details and you start looking at things like auto HDR and the 16 times anisotropic filtering and all the things they're adding to these old games. They're bringing games from 15, 20 years ago that have never played better. And I think that's to be able to go back and play Morrowind or Knights of the Old Republic. In kind of, they're not Series X games, but they're definitely feel a lot better than they did back then. And I think that just deserves a lot of credit. And I love to see it because game preservation is important. And for guys like us that go back a long way, if you try to go find a game that you loved back in the 80s or something, you're looking for hardware and you're looking at eBay or other sites to try and hunt these things down. It's not easy. No. So I love that Xbox is really pushing the preservation of their library over generations.
Yeah, 100%. Couldn't agree more. Boom, before we get to you, I want to catch up on some of the super chats. Wandering Dutch is sharing another generous super chat of £10. Remember to like, share, and support your awesome content creators. Awesome show, everyone, and great to see support in the chat. Yeah, thank you so much, dude. Really appreciate it. And yeah, the chat is on fire. 100%. Then we have Smitty Smith again with a super generous $2 super chat. I totally agree. I can't even imagine not having back compat. Well, thank you. Yeah, it's really we've gotten so used to having it. It's hard to imagine not having it. 7 years ago when the current generation or last generation launched. Then we have the wise old gamer with a super generous $5 super chat. Everyone else is super chatting and congratulating your first show. That's true. I'm super grateful. The chat is on fire. Thank you so much, guys. I'm doing this because of peer pressure and wanting to fit in with the cool kids. Yeah. Please don't feel peer pressure, but I super appreciate it. And then we have Mariano Pompa. Love the person. Yeah, he's a regular on your show. I know that. Love the preservation talk by Ains. Being able to put a 360 and Xbox One disc to the Series X is awesome. Epic panel. Yeah, dude, 100%. It's not just that the digital games work. It's that the discs work. It is just fantastic. So I hope I didn't miss any of the super chats. Oh, I did forget one. Hertog Vincent shared another $5 super chat. The only word you can hear, Sega.
Yeah. No.
Oh, boom. I want to use that as a segue to you because I know your love for Sega. So yeah, what's your take on the backward compatibility?
Well, I mean, listen, again, it's one of those situations where if Microsoft didn't do it, Sony would not have done it at all. I mean, look, if you look at what and that's what I kind of it infuriates me as a gamer that supports multiple consoles when you see a place like Microsoft not get the proper representation by the mainstream community. I'm talking more about the mainstream media as well as the social media aspect. If just to look at with the generations just started, right? And Microsoft had gone out of their way to put hundreds of thousands of hours into making sure that these games worked on your new console, but they didn't just work. They were advanced in some way or another. Games like that released in 2001, like Fusion Frenzy, gets auto HDR. Like, think about that for a second. How ridiculous that sounds. Have you seen what Ninja Gaiden 2 looks like on your Series X? It looks like a new game. It's almost a sin that we don't have Ryu Hayabusa making a return as an exclusive, right? So, I mean, the way that Sony did it, that no one really kind of gave them crap for, kind of was ho-hum. Okay, well, a handful of games worked, and we know because Cognito has experience about this in a certain game called The Avengers that could not be played on his PlayStation 5 when he has the PlayStation 4 version. That's pretty gross. So yes, backwards compatibility is super important, but more so, it preserves your purchased library, and not just in your physical stuff. I mean, again, you logistically could find a way to get your 360 saves onto your Series X, onto your hard drive. It's mind-boggling that they figured out a way to do this. And listen, it is great for gamers because, again, as gamers who, and I think everybody on this panel falls into the categories, we like to buy everything. And unfortunately, games sometimes don't get played. But it would be kind of dope that if a game is 5 years old and you feel like playing that game that you bought, you can on your Xbox. And I think that is where the magic really reeks its head.
Oh, that's a fantastic point, because we all have the backlog. We all had it.
Yeah.
And now it comes with us.
Right?
And
Hey, Arch, you missed one super chat from Dirk the Daring, man, up above.
Thank you. I was just seeing that. Thanks, chat, for pointing it out. Super sorry to miss it, Dirk the Daring, with a super generous $5 Canadian dollar super chat. I'm just here to say that I'm loving my Xbox Series S. Other than new games like AC Valhalla and Watch Dogs, I love playing back-compat games. Yeah, dude. I'm hearing the Series S is a super great console. I only have the Series X right now, but I'll be picking a Series S up early next year. And yeah, Valhalla, Watch Dogs, both fantastic games. I'm playing them too. Especially Valhalla has consumed me. And of course, some back-compat games. Yeah, I can only recommend everyone check out Arkham City on the Series X or S. That is a super showcase for the auto HDR feature.
Okay.
Really have to check that out. Yeah, so did I miss another super chat? No, but a new one came in from PixelBitG. Congrats on show number 1. Also, let's not forget Microsoft push for indies during the Xbox 360 via Xbox Live Arcade. Hacking hampered it, but it's great. It's standard now. Yeah, 100%. Summer of Arcade, like we said, was fantastic on the 360. And yeah, thanks again for the super generous super chat. So, Indie Gamer, let's get to you. What do you have to add to the back-compat discussion?
Everyone's done it so well, but I will do my best. Yeah, I mean, the back-compat thing is huge because, like, essentially, like when I said when I came in, like the fact that we don't have to worry about leaving anything behind is, that's like amazing. Like if we had to worry about like, we're going to leave all our library behind, I don't think many people would want to leave the generation. You know what I mean? There's so many great games, but they would be obviously picking up another console essentially. But it's such a consumer friendly thing that they've done. Again, it makes it like, we've got four generations available to us on consoles now. As someone who uses PC a bit more recently this year, since the start of this year, it's more of a PC like move now, because with PC you can access games back many years through the Steam library and stuff. You can pick up games from a long time ago, so it's more similar to that. So it's a good thing in that regard. It's becoming all the times, in many ways, it's becoming more and more PC like, I believe, console gaming. But yeah, no, it's fantastic. I mean, like, some people say you don't play old games. I don't believe them, because there's so many games that you wouldn't want to leave behind. Dead Space and things like that. You know what I mean? What a game! That's just come to EA Access, or EA. I'm using the old term. The EA Play now in Game Pass. So if you haven't played Dead Space on the 360 yet, on that, because that's an awesome game. But yeah, no, it's just a fantastic thing, and having all those generations available to us is an important thing. To be able to move forward as well. I don't think I can add a massive amount other than it's a fantastic thing, really, and I'm fully behind it, and it's great for console gaming.
100%. So, guys, yeah, back-compat was something that got introduced over the last gen, and I think we all agree it is a game changer for the console gaming world. Another game changer happened during the last generation. And maybe the 115 people that are in the chat right now. That's amazing, guys.
Wow.
Thanks. I wouldn't have thought we would get above 100 in the first live
another
show.
One.
That is amazing.
It ain't gonna be the first, the last.
We will see. No, guys, really, thank you. We have another thing. Let's move to the year 2016 and 2017. what happened during these years? We got something new in the console world and gaming world, and that is mid-gen enhanced consoles. Yeah, the PlayStation 4 Pro launched in 2016, and the Xbox One X in 2017, and that concept was new in a classical, typical media fashion. Some media sites really made this more complicated than it actually was. I really remember all the talk about what's that, how does it work, what is the concept, why, and so on. So not everyone liked the enhanced consoles, but the idea is cool in my opinion. I think it gives the gamer who wants better graphics an update in performance and remaining compatibility. So don't force anyone to upgrade. It just makes so much sense to me. And yeah, so gentlemen, I want to hear from you. Do you like the concept, or are you skeptical about it? And do you think we will see that concept again this generation with a PlayStation 5 Pro and a Series X or whatever it will be called? Ainsley, let's hear you first on this.
Okay. Yeah, I love the concept. It's not complicated. Naturally, I think it was made that way just because we had decades of hardline generations in hardware, right? And so people's minds were struggling with wrapping around the concept of just hardware upgrades versus generational lines. But I love it. I've been, for many years, wishing that consoles would update more regularly, because I'm one that's I'm an early adopter. I want the best when it's out and just give it to me right away. And, that's how I am. So personally, I love it. The One X, the Pro is a good console. I think playing specific games on the Pro, like God of War, Horizon, they're absolutely stunning games, and it absolutely makes a difference. From a hardware engineering perspective, the One X was a marvel. I really, really, love seeing what Xbox did when they started to get the Microsoft hardware engineers involved on the Xbox side, which really began with the One X.
Yes.
So very, very cool to see. In terms of what we'll see with these, it's a good question. And one, I honestly, you would think the obvious answer would be yes, we will see an updated PS5 and Series X, or, a next step. But the thing is that the Xbox One and PS4, when they launched in 2013, were already dated.
Yes.
From a CPU and GPU perspective, right? Whereas they kind of punched each other so much in the last generation that what we've ended up with here in the PS5 and the Series X are much more advanced hardware out of the gate, particularly in the Series X's case, right? It is what you're getting for $500 is hard to fathom. And so I think it's going to be a little more challenging depending on how hardware advances go and pricing goes over, the next 3 years, to see if we get an iterative console release. I would hope so. I'd be in for it, even if it costs more. Like I said, I'm just ready. I want the best whenever. But does it make sense for a mass market? I'm not sure.
Okay, interesting take. And you are definitely right. This time, the consoles are way more balanced than they were in 2013. Both of them are basically high-end PCs. Yeah, we all seen the numbers. You need $1,500 or something to put a PC together that is in the same ballpark at least. Yeah,
I tell you, I literally just built a PC over the weekend for my son for a Christmas / birthday thing. His first PC. It was about $1,400 out the door, and I had to tell him, I was like, my Series X over there is more powerful than this thing. It's the way it is.
That's the way it is, definitely. Lord Cognito, what's your take on that?
Yeah, Ainsley said everything so eloquently. It's the same thing. I think there was a shell shock period for traditional gaming when the announcement of the mid-generation refreshes. And even myself, I had to take a second, okay, this is new. But like Ains said, I want the best. I want to play my games at the highest fidelity. So it excites me when new tech is out there, and I want to see that. And I know we touched back compat again, but earlier, but it was one of those things too, when you also see, especially with the Series X, them going back and you're seeing these performance updates. So games that necessarily launched on the Xbox One that didn't perform well were now performing better. And now I'm like, man, it now makes it more exciting. I don't have to deal with these awful load times, or I don't have to deal with these, bad frame rates or whatever. It was just, you saw these jumps. So it was exciting. I think, there was a little bit of overhype with all this supposed confusion talk and people were not going to understand which system to get. And, again, I think it comes, Ainsley said it good. It comes down to coming from a mindset of generation talk where, you stay with a console for 68 years. This was a new concept at the time.
Yeah.
And it just took a while mentally for the gaming community to shift and understand that we are now mirroring PC a little bit more, and that these iterative steps, what it proved was there was an audience for it. There was a demand for it. And the thing that I love the most about it, and I'll wrap up, is the introduction of a performance mode and a high resolution mode.
Fair.
Because that gave us options now as gamers. We like, wow, we're not locked out in this console box and no say. We have say now on how we want to play. And I love that aspect about the big.
That is a fantastic point. Fantastic point, because you are 100% correct. That was new. We never had the chance to adjust graphics on consoles. Fantastic take.
And that's expanding, right?
Yeah.
There's games on the Series X that have 3 options.
There's 3 options.
And they have FOV sliders. And
Destiny's about to get an FOV slide. I'm going crazy right now. I never thought it would happen.
That was actually on Doom 2016. There was an FOV slider as well. That didn't happen very often in games, but you might have missed it on that one. But it's great to see it. Definitely.
It's crazy.
100%. I'd love for developers to give us even more options. I mean, all these games have these options on PC. So why not give it to console gamers? Maybe you can lock something behind us. But in general, it would make sense to give us even more options. Better details or better LOD and so on. Let's see where this will go in the next generation. And so before I go to you, Indie Gamer, I want to catch up on one more super chat before I miss it again. So from the Wise Old Gamer, a super generous $5 super chat. Did you hear? Apparently the Xbox Series X can play DC, GameCube, and PlayStation 1 games in dev mode. Xbox does what PlayStation won't. Yeah, I started the war today.
Wow.
Is that real?
No.
I'm not sure. It's the first time I'm hearing it.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be.
You'd believe someone with an avatar like that, though, wouldn't you?
I love OG. That's the Wise OG. I love it. That's my guy.
Okay, Indie Gamer. Enhanced consoles. You like him?
I mean, like everyone has said, it's becoming more like PC, which is great. And technology is always moving. This is why I would lean to the side that there may well be a refresh again. I think that might happen again, just because technology is always moving forward. The more it becomes readily available, certain technology becomes more cheap, so they can actually make it happen in a console, etc. So doing a refresh again, I think that is likely that will happen. I may well be wrong, of course, but I think it's good to always keep on top of the curve. Keeping the power up, and I think it's great that the options are becoming more available to console players as well. It's just they're obviously doing it with caution. They don't want it to be overwhelming. They don't want it to be like, right, we're going to just throw in every setting like there is on PC, and perhaps that might not be the best move. But I think they're probably slowly increasing it a bit more and more. So the options, and they're as a group option where they've made like Ain said, they got the 3 options to choose from. Maybe the resolution push mode, or you've got the frames, priority mode or whatever. I think it's good to see all that sort of thing. And the new consoles are beasts, like Ain said again. as a purpose-built machine, they are, you wouldn't be able to build a PC at the same price. Obviously, PC does a lot more for the price other than games, but as a games purpose-built machine, they're absolute beasts and amazing value for money. So yeah, I can definitely see it happening again halfway through, or a few years down the line, and that's something, refresh coming along. I don't know whether they might even do a bigger capacity on the drive potentially as well at some point, because that's maybe somewhere which it's lacking a little bit, and it's a bit of an issue at the moment. But yeah,
I think there we will get get more and cheaper expansion cards on both systems. Yeah,
that would be good to see, wouldn't it? Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I hope that kind of answers that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And last, but no way least, Boom, your take on enhanced consoles.
Well, I mean, listen, we're getting closer and closer to having PC-like consoles, right? This is a new concept. We've seen it with Microsoft. We've seen the tower design based on what you would have as your tower for your PC, your high-end PC. One of the things that we have to look at is, in my opinion, and this is not a console war, a finger pointy kind of a thing, Microsoft has future-proofed the Series X with VRS and all of the bells and whistles that you get with this console. And unfortunately, Sony's console is still lacking many of the advancements that you're seeing in the Series X. And this reminds me of back to what the years that you brought up. If you remember, the PlayStation 4 Pro was supposed to be shown at E3, and they pulled it back because they knew it was going to be less powerful than the Series X. So in an instance, Sony got caught with their pants down. Again, being very, very very nonchalant. Pardon me if someone rings my bell. Yeah, I'll be back in 1 second.
Go for it, brother.
All right.
Someone didn't agree with him.
Sony calling.
I think that was the shortest talk time Boom has
Sony's
had
on the phone.
Sony's on the phone for Boom. He's tired of the slam. Jim Ryan on line one.
Yeah.
The life of a podcaster who doesn't have an official studio. That's what happened.
Jim Ryan calling, man. Got tired of you, man.
Yeah, listen. No, you know what it is. This reminds me of the good old kind of funny days. If you remember when Greg Miller first started out, he would get the UPS guy to ring during almost every show. Yes. It was just classic. But I apologize for that. But Sony got caught with their pants down with the PlayStation 4 Pro. And I gotta be honest again, man. I think they got caught with their pants down once again with the Series X, and that is why. Now, granted, no one's taking away what Sony does with their first party. They're amazing, but that's not the conversation we're having. The conversation is, do I expect another round of consoles? Not for Microsoft. Sony, I can see a PlayStation 5 Pro releasing in the next 24 months because they are outgunned in regards to power. Now, sure, their first-party games are going to work well, but they're still not going to be. The system is just not going to be as powerful as its competitor in the Series X. So I can see it for Sony, not so much for Xbox.
Okay, interesting. You think only one of the two will take that step? It's definitely going to be interesting to see. Before we move on, maybe just one closing word from my side. I think technology in general just moves too fast for these 7 to 8 year console cycles. I mean, we buy a phone every year, or are supposed to buy a phone every year, or just look at what the Nvidia's cards do every year, or the processors from Intel and AMD and so on. Upgrading your console every 7 to 8 years just puts you behind so much technology that is possible. And so if they keep that concept that no one is forced to upgrade, I'm totally behind that. Doing that every 3 or 4 years, getting an enhanced console that just gives me better frame rates, better graphics, or whatever. I would be up for that because technology is just moving so fast these days. Okay, gentlemen, we move on into the year 2017. Any ideas what got announced in that year or introduced?
Crossplay, maybe?
We had the crossplay debate starting in 2016, to be honest.
You talk about the 1X or some feature?
It's a service we I think
Talking
is a
about
game
Pass.
changer.
Pass.
Game
Yeah.
Pass, exactly.
Yeah, summer of 2017. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, we had that now for 3 years, more than 3 years. It's incredible to think about it.
Yeah.
And I think with the introduction of the subscription service, Microsoft really kicked off a small revolution in the gaming industry, because now they really removed that barrier for gamers to actually buy games in order to play them. And I know that there have been other subscription services before Game Pass. PlayStation Now was there, and especially EA Access. But Game Pass, they just took it to another level. When it got introduced, it was 10 euros or dollars. Now it's 15 if you have the ultimate subscription. But for that, you get or got more than 100 games. Now I just checked, we are closing in 350 games that are in the subscription service right now. And shortly after they launched the service in 2017, they introduced that they will put all of their first-party games into Game Pass. And yeah, so I think that is really something that changed the industry. And I want to hear your thoughts on the service and the importance. And yeah, recently we had the rumors of Jim Ryan teasing, we don't know, a similar service. But now we have a Netflix for gaming, and yeah, I want to hear your thoughts on that. Let's start with Boom this time first.
Well, I mean, listen, what could you say? I mean, Microsoft has figured out a way to take what has seen 100+ million subscribers in Netflix and bring that to gaming. It's unheard of. It's unheard of. The value proposition is something unlike anything we've ever seen before, and it just works. And it's something that is literally forcing Sony to follow suit. Now, again, we talked about this behind the scenes. I don't think you're going to see first-party games for Sony ever. I don't think you're going to see Sony release games first on the PS5 and then at the same time on PC as well. They're very old school minded. And they have an old way of thinking. I think what we're going to see in regards to Sony is that PlayStation Now is going to be merged with PlayStation Plus. Not a bad value, but not what I want. And that's why I don't have either of those services. But I will say this. Microsoft has figured out a way to... And if you look at back in 2017, again, a lot of people, I'm not going to call it any specific, podcasters or content creators, but we know who they are. And they called this a never was. They called this the nail in the coffin for Xbox, how their first party games were going to become irrelevant because you didn't have to buy them and then no one would play them and they'd make no money. Everyone was pocket watching for Microsoft, a $1.7 trillion company. Everyone's watching their pockets and feeling bad.
That is always a funny thing to look at, that people on both sides really think that they know or can tell these multi-million or billion-dollar companies how to run a business. It's just funny.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, what's interesting and what's fantastic for gamers is you take, for instance, Microsoft lost this generation, but they didn't just lose a generation. They got curb stomped. That is the end of the story. It was almost 2-1, literally over 2-1. Compared to the PlayStation 4 versus the Xbox One. And this new generation was a soft reboot for Microsoft as a platform. And we saw that in the Series X, but more importantly, the Series S. Now, the Series S, the $300 console, that's literally as important as the X. When you factor in the Xbox Game Pass for $15 a month, and someone who potentially left Xbox for the PS4 because of price and power originally back in 2013 could somehow find their way back, and they've missed out on a lot of first-party games because maybe they only supported one console. they're getting a value unlike anything that's ever been seen in gaming. And we've been gaming. I've been gaming for 40 plus years. I've never seen anything like this. And it's why Microsoft has a good shot to really make this generation more of a two-console household than a generation win. So, one console wins over the other. I think you're going to see, because of the value proposition of Xbox Game Pass, more people are going to be willing to attempt to come over to Xbox because of 350 games for $15 a month.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, before I go to you, Indie Gamer, let me catch up on one super chat from Basement Radio Arcade Podcast. Great to see you in chat, by the way.
You don't have to read it.
I will. PC Master Race best value salute. It's a great segue because Game Pass is not just on console; it's also on PC.
Boom! Get him! And he's utilizing it well.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Enrique knows I'm joking around, man. Always good to see you.
And yeah, Indie Gamer. The indie game scene was big, or is still the biggest on PC, of course, for sure. But we touched on that earlier. The Game Pass is really an opportunity for indie games, and I at least discovered a ton of games I would have never bought or played if it weren't for Game Pass. So, what's your take on this subscription service?
Yeah, without a doubt, it's fantastic for indie games, getting that in the limelight again, that moment to shine. People trying it out without the worry as well, of spending 20 quid or $20 or where on a game, and then that's an indie game price, obviously, guys. That's another perk about indie games. But yeah, trying it out without the worry. You play an hour of it and they don't like it, no problem. Game Pass is fantastic for that. You can just be open-minded about your picks and just try games that you would never try before. But also the fact that the way they're getting smaller developers in there, like actually there's a game coming into Game Pass soon, which Lord Cognito interviewed the developer of, which is Unto the End. I think he'll know.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's on its way to Game Pass too. So I'm really looking forward to that game. But yeah, little games like that, small games. They're only a two-person team, husband and wife team, and
I'm pulling for them.
They're great. They're great people, aren't they? They are doing wonderful things. I've played the game. It's really, really good.
Yes.
I imagine you've played it too as well. But yeah, it's fantastic. But yeah, it's people like that, getting those smaller games in there, and then people just checking it out. That is fantastic for indie games. Game Pass is absolutely awesome. They've kind of sort of like built sort of Game Pass. It's covering many. It's very diverse. That's what's the part of Game Pass that is awesome, because you've got big AAAs in there. You've got the first party games, which is awesome. That's ticking many boxes for many people. But also Xbox as a whole, they are they're not just taking on big teams, like they're not all quadruple A studios. They're also the Double Fines and stuff like that, which are making games still to be those sort of truer sort of like intimate sort of experiences. They didn't take on people like Double Fine to sort of make them bigger and make those AAA games. They took them on to still be themselves and make those sort of smaller, intimate experiences that, excuse me, that people enjoy. So yeah, there's a lot of variety in there, and yeah, again, pushing out those smaller indie developers on the not necessarily game studios that are signed by Xbox, but people who can get a chance in Game Pass to shine a little. And it probably takes a lot of the stress away for them as well, knowing that they're going into Game Pass without having to worry about, right, we're going to release on the 21st of September and then hope that people buy the thing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and we've seen that as a statement from many developers that is a super advertisement for them. Sales went up after they launched in Game Pass because they got advertised through that subscription.
Yeah, it's interesting, that fact, isn't it? Like that it's like the actual people purchasing it as well as playing it through Game Pass as well, which is super cool.
Absolutely.
But yeah, hope I don't want to linger on too long because I know we've got lots to get through. So I hope that answers it okay for you, my friend.
No, you're good. Thank you for your take, Lord Cognito. Game Pass.
Well, yeah, fantastic points by the panel. I mean, to Boom's point, yeah, I mean, there was that, concern in the beginning, like, it was such a, let's say, revolutionary thing in the sense of, I guess there was question. I'll be honest, like I was just like, okay, how are they going to be able, from a sustainability standpoint, do this, right? Because from a consumer standpoint, which selfishly all I initially cared about was that this is super beneficial to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, not only do I get a chance to get on my backlog, you're getting all these cool games, and like Indie Gamer said, you got the indie games that are in there. And let's be real, we all have backlogs. There are some games that, unfortunately, they're not going to make the cut financially based on the decisions we're going to make for a month. So sometimes those games get left behind. But to have it in a service like Game Pass, you're like, wow, I can actually get this high quality game. And then where Microsoft kind of doubled down, where when you're like, wow, all first party is going to be in the service. So those at the time were pretty transformative ideas that at first I didn't understand. So as you do your research, and then, like any game is saying, you're finding out about, hey, these guys are doing well. You're hearing that games are doing better. We had the State of Decay devs on. I remember it jumped on right after the announcement, and they went MPD that month. From an indie game standpoint, again, like Indie Gamer mentioned, when we had Until the End, because I was trying to understand how it is beneficial for a developer. And the way it was explained was just that, you're almost, as an indie, you're getting that security up front. There's a projection that what they think that your game or Microsoft will make, and then you're getting that. So now you have that time to just focus on the game. And to me, ultimately, that's about, I mean, we should be, not worried about, like Boom said, not worried about Microsoft's pockets. We should be worried about these developers getting security, and then also sharing a storefront next to the big AAA game like a Gears or a Halo, but right there is their game getting that same spotlight, and where an audience who will only go into that service maybe to initially play that one game now says, hey, wait a minute, what's this? Oh, I've never tried this game before. And again, sharing that same real estate, huge deal. And it looks like the subscriptions are rising. And as we see moving into the generation, this is the play for Microsoft. This is the hardware. The console sales are not their focus. They're about the engagement into the subscription service. And the last point I'll make is, as a result of Game Pass, now the focus becomes the studio, so that you have this Netflix style of service where continual games and studios are being made, and that is ultimately what I like for the long play. I think it's a great service, and again, as gamers, as Boom said, we should be concerned about how it benefits us, and not worry about what about Microsoft's financials and if they're going to be able to sustain it. That's ultimately what this should be about as a gamer.
Definitely.
Great points. And I couldn't agree more. It really changed their strategy of not just selling consoles, but to just get you into the ecosystem, because the ecosystem is now Game Pass. It's on everything. It's on mobile, console, PC, everything. So to close this topic out, Ains, your take on Game Pass.
Yeah, I mean, you guys covered a lot of aspects already. I think, as you guys know, I really dive into the business aspects of the industry, and Game Pass was one when it kind of came out. It was one of the first things I did a deep dive video on, and I really kind of dove into all the financial numbers from Microsoft's corporate reports and services, and it's very, very interesting. So to just touch on a few of those points real quick, because you guys really covered everything else, is Game Pass is the business equivalent of like a domino effect. And what I mean by that is, once you get people into the service, and as you rightly said, you're getting people into the service not just from one avenue, right? They can access it. You open the points of access, of entry, which is mobile, PC, or console now, right? Once you have that built and you get people into the service, then it becomes a domino effect. And I quickly pulled up some of my notes from when I did that video. And so you guys touched on this, right? Like, 91% of Game Pass people will play titles they wouldn't have played if not for the service, right?
Yeah.
So, but more interesting, going to Cog's points on the developers, is that 25% increase in pre-order volume for games that are arriving in Game Pass is what they saw, and a 10% overall increase in actual sales for games that are in Game Pass because of the exposure. So it's this cycle of, once you're in the service, you're going to play a game you might not have played. A lot of people will buy things that they wouldn't have normally, right? So that's going to increase the exposure and the sales. But then you also look at engagement, and engagement is the big play here, right? Because if you look at all the biggest games in the world profitably right now, whether it's Fortnite or Roblox or all these other games, it's about long-term engagement. Destiny's another one, Cog. What that does, right? Once you get someone in the ecosystem and playing the game, even if they say Gears 5, for instance, right? What they're finding is that even if you didn't buy Gears 5, you're more likely then to mentally think, I didn't have to pay for this game, so I'll buy this bundle. I'll buy this pack. I'll buy these weapon skins. And so you're getting continued revenue stream just by being in the service and playing these games. So we could go on about Game Pass forever because it's very, very interesting from a business perspective, even beyond the gaming side of it. But it is very, very impressive. And don't think for a second that Microsoft and Xbox and Phil's team didn't know exactly what they were doing in designing this service. He said many times, this took them years to put together because they had to design the model that they knew would result in what we're seeing. And it's an industry changing service. Yes. And it's awesome.
Yeah. And that industry changing aspect is why I really wanted to talk about this. And we have a couple of other topics. But before we go to the next one, I want to read some of the super chats. Another one from the wise old gamer. I have to apologize for the Basement Radio Arcade podcast. After updating his PC after a year, his wallet made him unable to buy the next gen consoles. I see there is something going on between the two of you. And then we have Wakanda Xbox News Today, another super generous £5 super chat. Sorry about anyone that knocks Game Pass and slates the lack of so-called AAA does not see the true picture, in my opinion. I agree. This whole Game Pass fodder discussion we had when it got introduced, it's just ridiculous because we have seen that we get so many AAA games and of course smaller games to the service, and it's just fantastic through and through. Another super chat from Matt Usray, I hope I pronounced your name right. $25, super generous super chat. Congratulations on the show. I hope it continues. Time to get big. Yeah, well, thank you, man.
You can quit your job now.
If only. No, but we will see where this goes after this show. Then we have another generous super chat from Fabian Winkler, €5.49. I'm very curious if the EU, the European Union, will introduce the ability to sell used digital games this generation. Very interesting point. We will continue this discussion in our next party chat, buddy. It's been really difficult for console manufacturers to sell used digital games because of the legal restrictions in Europe here. Interesting point. Maybe I'll touch on that in one of my upcoming videos. Great idea. Okay, guys, we are almost 90 minutes into the show, and we have a couple of more topics I wanted to cover. So we will skip a couple of things like the introduction of VR. I wanted to talk about that and the cross play debate and stuff like that. Let's touch on one thing really quickly, if we can, because I want to have time to discuss with you the games of the generation as well. And that was introduced in the year 2019, and that is xCloud and Stadia, gaming streaming services. Well, if it will change the industry is yet to be seen. We will see that, but it's definitely a new concept, and a lot of people were afraid that it will kill off the regular gaming industry as we know it. So just please keep your answers a little bit shorter this time, so we have time for the gaming discussions later. But Ains, let's go to you this time first. xCloud and Stadia streaming services. What's your take on that?
Yeah, very interesting. Again, there's a lot that could be covered here, right? I guess to keep it short, what I would say is one of the things I've been preaching all year long is listen to what's said, not what you want to hear. And if you listen to what Phil Spencer says about this stuff, he makes it very clear that xCloud is a service as an additional thing, not a replacement, right? And I think when you think about cloud gaming, you have to think about it globally. Too many people get focused in their where they live and what they do. But if you think about it from a global perspective, there's every market's different, and the infrastructure in every market's different. The server capacity, I mean, there's a million things that go into it, and you're not going to see local hardware replacement for a long time yet. It's just not going to happen. The infrastructure is just not there globally. That said, there are going to be market segments. South Korea is probably the most notable one right now, where you will see adoption be higher on a mobile perspective or a cloud perspective than, say, local hardware. So it's an and discussion, not an or discussion. And I think that's what people have to focus on. They get too focused on one or the other. Everything's always black and white to people when life is gray. There's a lot of gray area. And just, that's what I would say about it.
Yeah, definitely. Lord Cognito, your take on streaming services.
Yeah, man, Ains on fire. I mean, the man is on fire. Like, it's just, it literally is that. And what people have to do, you have to think. I know gaming is an inherently selfish hobby, but we have to think outside of the box and what appeals or what works infrastructure-wise and other things. And to me, it was one of those things that, again, it's an additive service. And the thing that I will say this, the surprise to me is actually obviously Boom, myself, Ains, we're at E3 and getting to test the functionality of the service. Yeah. And you start to see, because I mean, it had a stigma prior to this announcement, I feel, right? And we all say, well, how's it going to work? How, we all have those trepidations, but when you actually have it in your hand and you're playing this, and this is going to a data center that's, in another state, miles away.
It was like 400 miles away or something.
Yeah, bro. I read your article, 400 miles away. And then, boom, you and King got a chance to touch it. And then, now that I'm home with the tech and, doing it, what surprises me is also on 4G when you're not tethered to your wireless access point is a huge deal. So like Ains said, in reference to markets like, China and things like that, these are growing markets where, again, not saying consoles are going away, but this is a form that they would adopt to in these other regions more than the traditional console. So that's where, again, these are situations where we have to look globally for growth, and that's all it is. It's an additive service. And the last point I'll make, because I know we're not going to go too long, is that I think it's just cool, especially with xCloud, how I can play my game. I can be waiting in the doctor's office. I bust out my Razer Kishi, I put my phone in, and literally from a cloud standpoint, I'm able to continue exactly where I left off. And again, that holds value to some gamers, a lot of gamers, a lot of people who have.
I'm one of them. Yeah.
Exactly. So as gamers, we just got to think outside the box, not saying that this is going to replace and we're going to take their consoles away and all this fear-mongering garbage that we were hearing earlier. But salute.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic points. I'm one of these gamers. I think it brings me additional value. Before the whole pandemic happened around the globe, I was traveling a lot for business reasons. Yeah, I spent 1 or 2 nights a week in a hotel, and just having now the ability to play my Xbox games, it's just great. And I hope we get back to that. Please.
I wouldn't have finished Outer Worlds if it wasn't for that. Yeah. When I was on vacation. I got Outer Worlds almost 90% done because of it. It was great.
Amazing game, by the way. Okay. Boom, your take on the streaming services.
Well, I mean, I think it's just an evolution of gaming. I think that it's fantastic to look at it from a bigger picture, because old school gamers, like everybody we talked about on this panel, is going to be able to experience gaming on the go unlike anything we've ever seen. See, this is where you start to adopt the younger gamers into the next generation, because the younger generation, they're used to gaming on the go already, right? They have their phones, they have their tablets, and they've been gaming on this for years. Microsoft is really ahead of the curve, because for the $15 a month, and we just got done talking about Game Pass, you get Project X Cloud. And what that does is it allows them to play on Xbox, have access to all of these major games, but still play their Fortnite, still play their Apex Legends, still play their PUBG, still play all of the games that gets them excited to game on the go, but at the same time be able to play Xbox games. Now for Stadia, well, I mean, we can call it what it is. It's DOA. We don't know if it's ever going to make a comeback. They don't have exclusive content. And we don't know what Amazon is going to bring to the table. But it is exciting that if you are someone that does travel a lot, like, for instance, Cognito does a lot of traveling, he can, besides playing his Switch, he can play his Xbox games. And I think that's pretty incredible.
Yes.
For sure, 100%. And yeah, to close this one out, Indie Gamer, any additional thoughts?
I'll keep it quite a short one, and just generally agree with everyone on this. I mean, it's definitely not, I don't think it's going to take over. It's definitely a supplemental kind of, thing that people can play in between, and, people traveling, like you've all said. I'm just repeating what you said at the moment, but it is good to see, because you're tapping into a different market as well. So in that regard, in the business sense, it is very smart, for Xbox to be getting behind it and stuff. Like, there's a lot of Switches being sold, and, a lot of people, look at the Switch as an inferior sort of platform. You've got now with it does a great job, the Switch, but mainly its selling point is that it's able to be played at home and able to be played on the go, and that's where this taps into it. And it's got your Xbox games on there too, so in that regard it's fantastic. And it's a great thing. If you're traveling on the road, like you say, your hotel, going for business trips, if you've got the daily commute, if you go on the train or whatever, don't drive and do it, obviously, but but yeah, no, it's just great, and I'm really glad to see it coming in. I don't think it will take over, because essentially you've got the powerful beast in your home, at least not for the next 10 years or so. I think it's still going to be, we're going to obviously be having the console as the main sort of place to play your games at the most in the most powerful way. Essentially, you get the best yield out of them. But on the go, fantastic though. Yeah, it's an awesome thing.
It definitely is, and I think we haven't seen the full potential yet. The introduction of 5G is on the brink. We will have that soon, and I think that will definitely change something. Yeah. So, guys, now before we move to the actual game discussion, I want to use the last topic as a segue, and that is the talk about first-party studios and the lineup of the console manufacturers. I mean, it feels like it was we had this discussion the whole generation. Xbox has no games, but to be honest, I went back and did a little research, and we didn't have the discussion all generation. That discussion started in 2016 around, and really took up in 2017, and that is when we had these Xbox has no games discussion, because 2016 was when Lionhead was closed and Scalebound was canceled early 2017. And it's undeniable that was the point when Microsoft hit probably their low point in terms of exclusive games. On the other side, Sony's AAA spree started in 2016 with Uncharted. They had, up until this point, other releases, but those were second-party games like Bloodborne, which I know is considered for many the game of the generation, but it didn't have the same impact like the other AAA releases. But only from 2016 on, Sony had that role of first-party content. I mean, this year alone was insane. If we think about it, we had Final Fantasy VII Remake, Last of Us 2, Ghost of Tsushima, Demon's Souls, and Spider-Man Miles Morales. That's crazy from first-party lineup. And Microsoft have definitely had their low, and there's no denying that. And that's why they started in 2018, 2019 with their shopping spree. And this year, the biggest announcement to date, of course, with Bethesda. Yeah. And even Sony bought studios. They added, for instance, Insomniac, if you remember that. All that happened during this generation. So before we start to talk about the games in specific that we enjoyed the most on the different systems, I just want to hear your take on the first-party situation, because this is really something that came up during this generation like I have never experienced it in my 30-plus years I've been gaming. This talk about first-party studios. So let's go this time to the Lord first. Cognito, your take on the on first-party situation.
Yeah, I mean, great point, Archimedes. I think that for me, it almost kind of almost felt like an arms race. It almost felt like,
That's a good comparison.
And I know we transitioned over from cloud, but I think that had a direct response to it as well, factor in it, because I know we didn't mention Stadia and Amazon too much, but the reality is they intend to be players in this streaming service, the streaming war, and as a result, what we're seeing with services like Game Pass and things like that, you need studios to produce content. So once that happened, and I believe was that Phil had made the statement, which was controversial at the time, hey, we look at Amazon and Google as our competitors. And at the time, people were like, oh, what are you talking about? PlayStation, is your direct competitor. What do you mean? But the reality is it's a forward thinking to when streaming does evolve and the infrastructure is in place. This is the format that people are going to gravitate towards. Not all, but most. Some will in some markets. And in order to sustain that, you need content. You need studios. So you just saw this aggressive push. And one of the highlights for me were obviously, the Xbox Game Studio announcements, have them showing, Ninja Theory, Obsidian, all those stuff. And obviously till they graduated to the bombshell, which my man Boom called me that morning. He's like, bro, Bethesda. And I'm like, what? He's it went down. And it was a transformative announcement. It was as King says, we gave him Phil Dominus Aurelius Spencer at that time. It was an Aurelius-like move. It was truly transformative. And not to take anything credit from Sony. I mean, they had some that they nurtured, but then they did the Insomniac games. That was huge. We're hearing about Blue Point and all these other things. Again, it's an arms race because eventually, and even Sony themselves, partnership with Microsoft on Azure, right? So that's them taking that seriously. And thus, going towards the analogy I like to use affectionately is like a Game of Thrones thing, and it's like the White Walkers are coming. So you need to stock up. Everyone needs to put their differences aside. Yeah, we need to get these studios and stock up because the streaming wars are going to be here, and you need content. So that's what I thought was a fun thing about this generation with all studio acquisitions.
Yeah, fantastic points. I mean, like you said, in the end, we as the gamers are the winners because this competition in between the two is really what made all this happen. And after the Bethesda deal, I mean, everything seems possible now. So, Boom, let's go to you next. First party lineup. Before we go into the actual game discussion, it's been an interesting discussion this whole generation. I would just want to hear a brief general thought on your opinion about it.
Well, I haven't turned my Xbox on in 7 years because they've had no games. I don't know what everyone's talking about. All these studios. I've had no games on my console, and I'm never going to get to 300,000 gamer score because of it. Thank you. No, all jokes
all
aside,
360 days.
It's an exciting time. It's an exciting time to see the transition of Phil Spencer. I think, to be honest with you, as a gamer, it's exciting. As a podcaster, it's wondrous. Because when Phil got promoted in late 2017, he had really put out there what his plans were for the Xbox brand, and he has delivered in spades. And seeing one of Microsoft's glaring Achilles heel with the lack of dominant first-party studios outside of Forza, Halo, and Gears, they're now sitting on 23 studios with 35 plus teams. It's just mind-boggling, and we're hearing that more are coming, and we get that from Satya Nadella himself, not even from Phil. We've heard Phil say it, we've heard Matt Booty say it, but hearing Satya Nadella say, yeah, we're currently scoping out others. I've said this in the tweet, and I got a lot of traction. I think they're going to have 30 studios by the end of 2021. And I think that's where they're going to stop. That is the rumor, and it's pretty impressive. And again, it just goes to show you that Phil's plans for Game Pass were in effect years before we even knew what Xbox Game Pass is. So it's exciting because, again, you look at what Sony has done with their first party, and it's been an incredible ride with their first party studios. And it's exactly what I want in games. They're the over-the-shoulder, single-player, story-driven, adult-themed titles. We want that on Xbox, and guess what, folks? We're going to get it in spades once again.
Yeah, absolutely. Great, fantastic points. Boom. It is really something that will change the gaming landscape in this upcoming generation once that train of first party content really keeps coming. Before I go to you, Indie Gamer, I want to read just one more super chat from Viper XT. A super generous $20 super chat. Congratulations on your first podcast, joining the likes of Iron Lord Podcast, DoubleBarrel Gaming, and RDX. Great panel to kick it off. Looking forward to watching that channel grow. Yeah, thank you, sir, so much. I'm really surprised by the almost 130 live viewers, and I'm having a blast. Thank you all for being here. And Indie Gamer, let's go to you. First party situation, really a discussion we have never had in any other console generation I can think of. What's your take?
Yes, I mean, obviously, you explained it well when you first set up the topic, where you mentioned that Xbox sort of had a very bad run at a point. They lost their Lionhead, and then they had games falling through, and the AAA representation was lacking very much. But Phil steps in. He's he's in the position. He gets his promotion. He's done amazing things for Xbox, and he's turning the tables massively. He's getting amazing talent on board. I mean, for me, obviously, I don't focus massively on this kind of thing. I mean, I would take the different angle that I just wish people would not get involved in the whole debate over you've got to have your AAAs, you've got to have this. I wish people would just look at games as games and just feel like that's a good lineup of games, rather than breaking it down too much. I know we like to do that on podcasts, as absolutely, but at the end of the day, it's it just gets a bit messy sometimes, and it's a shame that sometimes it gets that way. But yeah, I mean, the first party lineup now is without a doubt incredibly strong. It's at a time where it's sort of we're just on the edge of it being an amazing lineup of games coming our way. It's an amazing time to be on board the Xbox platform. You've got like it's 23, isn't it, studios at the moment that they've lined up, and games like Hellblade 2 coming our way, things like that. It's just epic. If you're thinking, you can obviously see why this is going to be maybe a great start to the generation with this lineup of studios, and they're setting themselves up the best they can, really. I mean, you cannot complain really with the lineup of studios they've got and the games that are in production. So yeah, I mean, the turnaround is almost miraculous, to be honest, from what it was at a stage. Looking at a first party point of view, it's an incredible turnaround, and we're all set up for absolutely amazing experiences in that sector of gaming.
100%. Like you said, it is incredible to see this stable, and I think the thing is what I put up here on screen is a comment in chat, and that's basically what you have said from Dinero Primero, that we need this competition in between Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo. That is what is really thriving the industry, is where we all benefit. Okay, Ains, any last words on the first party situation before you will kick off the discussion with the about the best games of this generation, in your opinion? So, go ahead.
No, you guys mostly covered it, I think. The only thing I would say is this ties heavily especially when you talk about Xbox, right? This conversation ties directly into the Game Pass conversation, because Game Pass is your mechanism and your delivery. But as with any service, Netflix is always the one that's called out for good reason, right? It's the biggest subscription service out there. But Netflix, what you've seen them do as they've grown is what did they focus on, right? Content, and exclusive content. And they've been able to invest in higher quality content from bigger directors and production companies as they've grown, which is exactly what you're seeing out of the investment by Microsoft into the gaming space with Xbox and Game Pass. So there's a reason that they can drop $8 billion like it's nothing on a Monday morning. It's crazy to think, but that really told you definitively, if you had any last remaining doubts that Microsoft is deadly serious about being in the gaming space, that should have ended that conversation once and for all.
Great point.
It is a huge industry, 160 billion annually and growing exponentially. And by exponentially in the business sense, you're talking a growth rate of over 10% year over year, right? And when you talk about the cloud space, you've got Microsoft, Google, and Amazon. Anyone beyond those three are minor. And so Microsoft knows what they're doing. And that's why you're seeing what you're seeing out of Xbox. And to Boom's point, it's not over. There's more coming. Yeah. From a PlayStation perspective, they're playing. We could go on about this a while. I won't keep going, but PlayStation's playing on a different level, much to their chagrin. But what they have done, they've done extremely well, and they have a global brand and distribution system that is ahead of Xbox, and they've used that to their advantage, as any good business would do. But what that all means is what you guys already said. We benefit. We're the consumers, right? So let them fight each other. I don't care if it goes 20 rounds, right? Keep fighting each other. We're consuming. But it's this is an area you're going to continue to see investment in, not just from PlayStation and Microsoft, but from Amazon and Google and other companies like them.
Yeah. Fantastic point. It's always hard to follow your argument, because you really hit the nail on the head. It is the great thing about this is seeing the industry grow, and that's why they can afford to buy these studios and make them bigger and give us bigger and more developed games. It'll be really interesting to see where this will end up in a couple of years once the generation really has started. Okay. Like I said, I had a couple of other milestones for this generation planned. The crossplay debate, the introduction of mods on consoles was also new during this generation, the introduction of VR. But I think we could talk about the generation all day and well into the night, but I want to really now go into the discussion of our favorite games of this generation. And here's how we will do that. I want to take turns here. So we will talk about our number 3, then our number 2 on the respective platform and so on. And let us start with the PlayStation 4. So, gentlemen, I hope you have your lists ready to go.
Yep.
But before we start, hang on, before I lose it. One other super chat came in from Gamer by Choice. Great show. I feel like I'm watching and listening to an equivalent of a podcast stream team. Salute to the panel and show. Well, thank you so much. Salute to you, sir. Okay, Ainsley, your number 3 on the PlayStation 4, what would that be?
We're starting number 3. Okay.
Yeah, we're starting.
It's interesting, right? Because when you do these shows, I'm sure there's going to be overlap. So I kind of have a few extras. I'll start with, and it was mentioned earlier, but I'll start with Bloodborne.
Okay.
Bloodborne is a very, very special game. And I think it might have been you, Archimedes, who said that from a sales perspective, it's not going to stand up there with Spider-Man and God of War and those others, right? Because it's a much more niche title in that regard. But for the Soulsborne fans, as they like to be referred to, right? And even beyond the Soulsborne fan, Bloodborne is an incredibly special game. It's a one-off. It was a new IP. It's a one-off title. It hasn't been remastered, touched up. It hasn't even been touched up for PS5, much to many of our chagrin, right? But it is a game that, honestly, I see from people I know who game extensively on all platforms. I see that at the top of their list for not only the generation, but for many people, on their all-time list as being one of those games that is timeless.
100%. It's one of these games where, like you said, not a lot of people played it. I think the sales are around 1 million, 1.5 million copies sold, somewhere in that ballpark. But everyone who played it really puts it up at that level, like you said.
It's special. It's one of those games that is, there's certain games, be it small, large, what have you, where you can see a development studio crafted every area, every detail in the game was crafted by someone who knew why they were doing it, right? Yeah. It's not a templated game. And it makes it really special. It's also got a tremendous amount of lore. It can be played in many different ways, and there's a community that has been built around that game, which is, I won't say second to none because that's not true, but I mean, it's special. So if you haven't played Bloodborne, even if you hate the Souls games or just struggle with difficult games, it is a challenging game. Find a good Let's Play or walk through of Bloodborne, because you will begin to appreciate how special that game is. It's a good one.
Definitely, for sure. Boom, what's your number 3 on the PlayStation?
Spider-Man 2018, easily. When you look at what Sony has done with their first-party studios, it's easy to throw names around. But what Insomniac did for Spider-Man, what Insomniac did for Sony was so impressive, so incredible, that Sony bought them. And it's one of the best purchases and studio acquisitions of the generation. What they've done with Spider-Man Miles Morales on a game that's a smaller, considered to many as a DLC or a snippet to what Spider-Man 2 is going to entail. It is it's one of my favorite games of the generation because of my affection for Marvel and more specifically Spider-Man. And what they've done with that game is they made him feel powerful but weak as a human because of his family ties and the issues behind the scenes that people fail to realize Spider-Man has. He has marital issues, right? At the time, he had issues with Aunt May. He had issues just paying his rent, right? But he was also a guy that could lift up a truck and save a bus full of people. Very, very, one of my favorite games. Definitely, it could have easily been number 1, but it falls in at my number 3.
Great choice. So, Lord Cognito, your number 3 on the PlayStation.
Number 3. My list is weird. I'm gonna upset people, smarting people now. My number 3 is actually God of War, and I know it's a lot of people's number 1. But for me, and I had this conversation on ILP yesterday. I wasn't the biggest God of War fan. Now, I respected the series. It just didn't resonate to me specifically, and it was over the top. It was very action heavy. God of War. I get it. And I played the Vita version. I enjoyed them, but I just wasn't married to them. I didn't have that connection until this God of War.
Me too,
God of War 2018, because he was grounded and he was tired. He had been through a lot, and now everything to me, the father-son relationship between him and Atreus hit me different.
Yep.
And you've seen him struggling with himself, and you've seen a lot of character development. The actors involved did a fantastic job. So God of War 2018 is kind of my God of War. It's like for they got me finally, kind of thing. So like it's a special game for me, and I remember playing it and just going through it. Ibanez, he was the one that recommended it to me because I wasn't a God of War fan. He's like, no, Cog, I think you would like this one. And definitely impactful. So that's my number 3.
Yeah. You literally, I could have said those same words. Exact same feeling about the game. I was never 100%. Into the series.
Oh, I thought, okay.
Yeah, very different. He was a man in 2018, not a god. Even though he's still a god, but you know what I mean. It felt different for sure.
Yeah, I mean the first games, they weren't about character development or story or anything. Right. I mean,
it was just.
I loved it. Don't get me wrong. I was a huge God of War fan on the PlayStation 2 and 3. One of my favorite games on the respective systems. But it was really a reintroduction by making him a character and adding a story to it. Okay, great choice, Indie Gamer. Your number 3.
Yeah, I mean, so like I say, I don't own a PS4, but I do play multi-plat games. This is going to be a little bit of a weird one for me. If I give, I'm gonna maybe, if it's okay, sorry about this, but if it's okay, if I treat this as number 6 of the multi-plat, essentially.
Allow it.
That's okay. Otherwise, you can skip me if you prefer. I don't mind. It's up to you. It's all good. Yeah, cool. Okay, I'm going to fire one out there, and you might notice quite a bit of difference in the styles of games that I pick here. I'm going to use this as an opportunity to shout out some good indie games. Obviously, they're the games I've enjoyed anyway. So I'm going to start off with Katana Zero, which is a game which has recently come to Xbox Game Pass. But I picked it up originally last year when it first came out. It was on Switch and PC first. And it's just one of those games which is... it's absolutely thoroughly addictive to play, fast-paced action, but there is so much more to it. It's got a kind of a really interesting story, quite a graphic sort of 18 plus, 21 plus, wherever you are in the world story. It's quite there's drugs in there, there's all sorts of hard hitting stuff in the story, but it's very it's clever because it's got like a narrative which can take different paths. It's got, you choose your own responses in the like RPG style responses within the narrative as well, which is really nice. It's from Devolver, and the developer is ASCII Soft, so it's a very small team making the game. But Devolver games always seem to have that sort of edginess, and this definitely is one of those kind of games. It has that real sort of like edginess to it. Like I say, it's in Game Pass now. I highly recommend checking it out. But I mean, all the elements of it, it's got like a sort of pixel art style to it. It's fast paced, one hit kill action, which is some people avoid, but it's very addictive because once you die, you come back you're literally back in straight away. So there's quite a lot of you play like a samurai. Sorry if I'm jumping around. Play a samurai, and you basically you have to work way through sort of set pieces, and you'll have different enemies to take down. And the game is kind of like it's got a sort of puzzle element to it, even though it's an action game. So you'll have sort of like, you'll have to think about the tactics where you're going to go. There's a sort of time element of slowing down time, and you can roll past people, slice them from behind, etc. And you have to sort of take down people in a particular way, and you can, like I say, slow down time. You can also slice people's bullets back towards them. The gameplay is just very addictive, and
it sounds like I really have to check it out. I haven't heard.
Definitely should. Yeah, it's a small game, but it's got a lot of personality, and it's a blast to play. Yeah, so highly recommend checking that game out if you haven't already. I hope that's okay for my first pick.
Absolutely. Okay, my number 3. Maybe I just start or put out one thing, because people are probably going to hate on me for not including God of War in my top 3 list. It's probably number 4. It was an incredible game, no doubt. And when I sat down, I really had to think about it in hindsight. Which games did I have the most fun with? And then I had to put it on PS4, and that really tells you something about the quality of the PlayStation first-party games. If a game like God of War doesn't make your cut for the top 3. So my place number 3 is Days Gone. I really, really like that game. I'm just a sucker for these open world games, and this one is really one that got to me. The world was done very well. The story, I really enjoyed it. I love the strategics behind fighting these hordes of zombies, and I can't wait to replay it again on the PlayStation 5 in 60 FPS.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. If you're a fan of that game, you're gonna love it on PS5.
Yeah, as soon as my PlayStation will arrive, I'm definitely going to boot that up. It's just incredible and such an underrated PlayStation game, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's go to number 2 then. Maybe we start this time with Mr. Boomstick. Your number 2 on the PlayStation.
Yeah, that one was one was kind of up in the air, but I'm going to say this: Ghost of Tsushima, number 2.
Okay.
I platinumed the game just like I platinumed Spider-Man. I thought it was an absolutely epic adventure. It was from a studio that no one have heard from in years. Mm-hmm. The last time we heard anything from them, it was Infamous Second Son. The game was great. It was a great looking PlayStation 4 game, but it just didn't resonate with me because the kid was kind of douchey, to be honest with you. I was a big fan of Infamous 1 and 2. It just did not resonate with me. So when we first saw this, going back in I think it might have been 2015 when we first saw this, people didn't know what we were going to get. We were going to get Bushido Blade, we were going to get an Assassin's Creed-esque type of game, and that's what they delivered. They delivered everything that I love about Assassin's Creed, but with Japan, feudal Japan, no less. And it's what's great is it gave you the ability to go in ninja-esque. Of course, Cog, you'll appreciate that. Or, the honorable way, just calling people out and just slicing and dicing. And it's such an incredible experience. It's why it's my game of the year 2020.
Woo! Damn it, you got Cog going now.
Goosebumps indeed.
Right now, boy, gave me goosebumps.
So that's my number 2 there, Boxer Bear.
Archimedes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I lost probably the last 30 seconds because my internet went down. I got a message, no Wi-Fi connection anymore.
You good?
But I'm glad I'm back.
Yeah, we're still good on stream.
Okay.
Yeah, I just said that my number 2 was of Ghost of Tsushima.
I got that. I got just broken up in the middle of your iteration, but fantastic pick for a great game on number 2. Lord Cognito, your number 2.
Oh, 2. This is tough. I narrowed it down to Final Fantasy VII Remake. It was remake.
Awesome. Strong pick.
As Ains knows how I feel about Final Fantasy VII, and it's
one of the few things we disagree on.
Yeah, we don't disagree a lot. It's only like 2 days we disagree. This is one of them. But Final Fantasy VII holds such a special place for me as far as the PlayStation ecosystem. Especially I'm one of the guys that really like the original PlayStation. No disrespect to PS2 and PS3, but PlayStation 1 represent a lot to me because it was Sony stepping out on their own, aggressive, and at the same time showing that, hey, we can compete in the games industry. And Final Fantasy VII, I had all the launch titles for PlayStation, but when Final Fantasy VII hit, to me it was special because I got people who would never be into the JRPG genre, into this game and these high production values and things of that nature. So when I heard about the remake, I just wanted to know how, the extent they were going to go to it. And not only did they do a good job graphically, it's a looker, but the thing about it is that without spoiling, they do something very different. And let's just say when you end this game, and now it opens up a whole new thing. So yeah, Final Fantasy VII Remake, I did not think I would enjoy it as much as I did. Yeah. And as far as for PlayStation, that is definitely, it's up there for me, for sure.
I can totally get behind that. It was probably the biggest surprise for me this year, game-wise. I didn't expect to have so much fun with the game. and I'll definitely do a replay when it comes out with the enhanced version on the next gen consoles before the second part of it will be out.
Whenever that comes.
Whenever that comes out. Yeah, but it was an incredible, amazing experience. Yeah, well, Indie Gamer, let's go to you next. You're number 2.
Okay, so so this is, like I say, if you don't mind, it's my number 5 essentially of the multiplayer. Excuse me. So basically, I think I kind of might scrape this one a little bit because it might have just been before the start of the gen, but I played it this gen, and that is Journey, which is a PlayStation game originally. So, but I played it on the PC, so I think of it as this gen when I played it. But yes, I was quite late to the game with it, I was always wanting to play it, but I never had the PS4 to check it out. And yeah, when it came over PC fairly recently, I was all over it, and it was amazing. So yeah, the hype lived up to the hype. So it's just one of those games where it makes you think, and makes you wonder what the message is behind it. If you see what I mean, it's kind of like it doesn't say words or anything. It's just kind of an experience. It is an experience indeed, and. Like you say, you come away with questions. You come away wondering what were they saying when this happened in the game. I'm sure many of you guys have played Journey, and it's a special experience. Like it's an emotional game as well. I found it emotional anyway. I found it kind of like the connection you have as well with the because you interact with another player. I believe that is what that is. I'm pretty sure you on your journey, no pun intended. You encounter another being who is on the same journey. I believe that is a multiplayer element, if I'm not mistaken, and they're actually interacting when they're playing the game, and you are with each other, and you can then run together. I don't know if you guys remember that, if you've played it at all. I'm pretty sure that was a multiplayer element, like a co-op sort of element, because you'll encounter another person playing, like I say, and then you interact, and the interactions feel too real. I'm sure it is like you've found someone, and that's quite a cool thing. And then you can there's achievements for like if you stick with a person for the rest of the game and stuff like that kind of thing. I think that's really interesting and something different to add into the game as well. But yeah, it just feels so lovely. Like the gliding through the sand dunes is just lovely, I think. And one of those games that you just, like I say, you want to check it out, you want to play through it again. It's a short game and it leaves a long impression. So yeah, that's definitely made my list.
Nice choice. Ainsley, you're number 2.
Yeah, so I think I have to, since we mentioned God of War already, I'll have to go with Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm a huge fan of Horizon. And similar to like Boom said about Ghost with Sucker Punch, basically disappearing from the beginning of the generation to the tail end. Guerrilla was rather similar, right? There came Alpha Killzone for years where they tried to tackle Halo. Nobody tackles Halo. So they had to learn the hard way. But, no one expected them to come out in 2017, right in the middle of the gen, right? With this new IP that really was just incredible on day one. A vast open world, a unique story. The combat and the design of the enemies, I guess you call them, dinosaurs, robots, whatever you want to call them, just incredible. And Aloy over time has almost become kind of a new mascot in a way for PlayStation.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. And I just love that world. I love it. Guerrilla knocked it out of the park. So hats off to them. As you already saw, when they started unveiling the PS5 finally and showing us what did they show, the follow-up in Forbidden West, because they know that graphically, Aloy, the world, it's hitting on all cylinders for them.
100%.
So
100%.
I love it. I have me, I got posters up around. I have statues on order for her, and it definitely became it made my list of the best new IPs of the generation.
No doubt. I fully get behind that. I'll say about that game something in a second. My number 2 would be Spider-Man. I just was so surprised by how much fun I had with that game, and it launched very close to God of War, and I know that there was a huge discussion about it, which one is better or has more impact, and everyone was putting God of War on the table, and I just thought, man, am I having fun with that game. It's just a fun game. The combat was great. The story was great. I loved the side stuff you could do in the world. And it's probably Miles Morales is definitely going to be the game I'll be booting up first when MediaMarkt finally decides to dispatch my console that I have paid full price up front and still haven't received. So, yeah, this is definitely my number 2. Okay, then let's hear about our favorite games on the PlayStation. The number 1, Ainsley, which would you pick for that?
Yeah, I think number 1 PlayStation specific for me is God of War. I just think it is. I think it's a close race between that and Horizon for me. But where God of War would pull ahead is exactly what Cog called out, and that's the father-son aspect.
Yeah.
I've said it in I can't remember if I did the review or not, but I said it before that if you're a father in particular, that story hits you a little differently. And that game came not to get down on the show, but that game came out in 2018 when I lost my son. And so it just, you can talk about every aspect of that game, right? The world, the graphics, the writing, the voice acting. I mean, all of it is AAA, high production value, incredibly well done. And I fully understand why people have it as their game of the gen or one of their favorites ever. I get it. It's not all the way up there for me, but it's close. And it's definitely, I think, PlayStation's best first party kind of exclusive title on the platform for PS4. It's really, really special.
Yes, absolutely, it is. Indie Gamer, your number 1.
Sorry, could you go to someone else quickly? Sorry.
Oh, okay, no problem.
I'm so sorry. Just trying to sort out my order. Sorry, do you mind coming back to me? Sorry.
Yeah, I will come back to you.
Sorry, thank you very much. Sorry, my friend.
Boom, let's hear your number 1.
Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah.
For every reason that Ainsley said, and 10 more reasons on top of it. Aloy is a character that was displayed in a way that told a story so outside of just her being a meek, female lead character to having to literally save the world. They went into her background as a kid. You understand from almost a biased situation how she's considered an outcast. It walks the fine razor's edge of racism. In a way that it speaks to many races, where it doesn't say that whether someone is the way she's feeling is because she's white, black, or blue. It's because of where she came from and how she has no status among the world, and yet how important she is to it. I think what's impressive is this is from a developer who has only ever done first-person shooters, and to reveal such a magnificent world that is so vibrant. And again, I get a lot of people didn't like some of the side quests, like, oh, go fetch my leg, the dog took it. I get it. But for me, it's sadly it's a game I've never platinumed, shamefully enough. But I put 60, 70, maybe even 80 hours into the game. The DLC was absolutely astounding. Yes, and I believe Aloy is, like Cog said, going to be one of those mascots that live on in PlayStation lore.
Yeah, just to add on to Boom's point there around the story and how they told Aloy, one of the things I really loved about it too, Boom, which I'm sure you'll agree on, is how that story uncovered over the course of the game.
Yes.
And I think the people who only put maybe, say, 10 hours into it aren't able to recognize just that type of comment, because a lot of what gets uncovered in that game comes later as you work through the experience.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, Lord, Cognito, let's hear your number one pick.
This should be no surprise to many here. I'm the gaming ninja. You know how I play. But look, I'm actually surprised because I really thought about it, and it's got to be Ghost of Tsushima. And it just from the simple fact of this,
Nice.
I'm not going to say it's the best at what it does or it was so genre defining. Why? The reason why it resonates with me is two things. One, as an older gamer, I have open world fatigue. And these great open world games, they're absolutely amazing. And you really have to have a lot of time dedicated to commit. The thing that Ghost of Tsushima does is the world is a character. And whether it be a fox that you may come along, a bird that you may see, and it leads you organically, even the use of the wind with the touchpad to explore. And I guess the way it did it made me want to do it. Whereas I pick up other games, whether it's Assassin's Creed and other things, and I see a million icons on the map and I get intimidated. And I never finish it. You know what I mean?
100 question marks and you don't know where to start.
It's overwhelming. So for me, the way Ghost of Tsushima handled open world, it led me to natural exploration. And thus, it was the first game I platinumed. Like, I literally did it. Now, you couple that, obviously, what Boom said, you know, the character himself is conflicted. He has morals from a samurai standpoint, yet, you know, in order to defeat this enemy that he's dealing with, the Mongols, who have no honor, who basically ravaged them and disrespected their culture, to him to now adjust and adopt the form of the ninja to turn the tide. And it's a very conflicting story for the character. For him, he's battling a lot of stuff without spoiling it. And again, like Boom said, feudal Japan, one of my favorite time periods. The last thing I'll say too is the game truly gives you a picture of Japanese culture, whether it be doing the haikus. You know what I mean? Like you literally like the level of detail. I think they went to the shout out to Sucker Punch. They went to the island of Tsushima, a real island, and they really got their information. They brought in people for the authenticity aspect of how things would be in that era. And the last point I said is just when, you know, I thought the game was over, and the ending is one of the best endings. You can say what you want about the character, but when you get to that ending, it is powerful. I could not believe the game put me in that type of a position that I won't spoil that I had to do. But the last point, just when I thought it was over, okay, boom, it's over, is they do a co-op mode. Again, I'm just thinking it's a tack on kind of thing. I'm not paying it no mind. It's not only one of the best modes. I'm a Destiny guy. I didn't think they would even have raids and things of this, which really introduce all these mechanics. So Ghost of Tsushima is the complete package to me. I'm very proud of Sucker Punch. I didn't think that game surprised me. I didn't think I was excited when the game was announced, but I didn't think it would impact me in the way it did. And it gave me some Tenchu and also samurai vibes as well. It mixed in. So Ghost of Tsushima, that's for me.
Great choice. I mean, the game was amazing. Like you said, the ending, it stuck with me. I was thinking about it.
So I'm only about halfway through, but I've been waiting for the 60 frames on PS5, so I got to get back to it.
Yeah, definitely, because you have to experience that ending.
Oh, wow.
Okay, Indie Gamer, let's hear from you.
Okay, so again, this is going to be kind of like my number 4 essentially in the multiplat. Sorry again, but I mean, this one's a little bit of a funny one. It potentially has the potential to move up a little bit further. I haven't actually fully beaten it yet, but it's going to be Hades, guys. It's absolutely blinding. It's an awesome game. It is and it's a roguelike, which puts a lot of people off, and it maybe even puts me off somewhat before I got into it. And once I played it, I was like, this is so well balanced and so well designed that you never feel like you're kind of like you're bashing your head against a brick wall like you do with some roguelikes. I mean, it would probably be better described as a roguelite, to be honest. But where they've balanced it, there's a lot of story to it. It's not just gameplay. That's the thing about a game like Dead Cells. It's kind of no story there. That's why I sort of couldn't connect with Dead Cells quite as much. It's the gameplay in Dead Cells is fantastic as well as in Hades, but there was no story. So like when you died and then you went back to the start, you accrued a few power-ups or whatever, but there's no real story carrying you through. In Hades, the story is excellent. Voice acting is remarkable. There is a lot of characters as well, so there's great stuff to be getting into. Even if you're terrible at it, you're going back to the house each time. You can still feel like you're actually enjoying the game, and I'd like to say I'm not terrible at it, but maybe I'm not the best. No, I'm making progress. That's the beauty of the game. It's so well designed that if you're dying, you're still making progress because you're carrying across those abilities that you've got on the run. But yeah, the gameplay is super addictive. I would describe it as an adrenaline fueled action, kind of like that Doom feel that when you're playing Doom, it's kind of just like, oh yeah, you know what I mean? You just feel like you're so into it. It feels like that. It's fast paced. There's a lot of slide, and there's different options for combat as well. There's you can use different styles of weapons. There's even a gun. There's a sword. There's like a bow and arrow kind of style. There's a lot of different variety in the game. But yeah, I just think it's just so well balanced and done in such a good way where you feel like you're never failing. The story is very interesting too. There's actually quite a heartfelt story going on as well. I'm yet to finish it, so I feel a bit fraudulent putting it in this list. But at the end of the day, you never really finish a roguelike. So you know, I mean, even if you beat a run, then you still got more to do in a roguelike. So, but yeah, definitely this could even pop up a little bit further. If I was reluctant to put it right at the near the top because of the reasons that I haven't quite finished it, but I look forward to the Game Awards, and I have a strong feeling that it's going to take a fair few of the awards because it's like I say, voice acting is outstanding, the action is outstanding. It's in both of those categories. It's in the best indie game category. I highly believe it's going to take best indie game, and deservedly so because it is awesome. So yeah, I'll leave it there, guys.
Good. Cognito, it sounds like we really need to start it before the Game Awards.
I gotta play it. Yeah.
Gotta start it, man. Sitting on my Switch, I need to play this.
Definitely.
But with all these new consoles coming out, I'm just so busy.
Have they not to sidetrack us? Have they mentioned Xbox or PlayStation release yet?
They haven't, I don't think yet. No, it's only Switch and PC, but it's inevitable. It's super giant games, so and the popularity is obviously pushing it that way. But Supergiant always roll out their games to other platforms, so strong chance it will be. I don't know how long, but it will definitely come though. Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if that comes into Game Pass. Not at all.
It would be.
Supergiant has a fantastic relationship with Microsoft. Yeah.
Good point.
To Archimedes' point, it's hard to pick up the Switch right now, and I got a PS5 and Series X sitting right there.
Where's my Switch
you got a nice PC behind you as well, my friend. Get it on
PC. There you go.
All right. To finish this up, my number one is Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm just right there with Boom and Ains, and the game is just so amazing. I remember seeing it for the first time in a trailer, and I thought, okay, what is going on? Robot dinosaurs? What's that? But when you actually play it and you get into the story and see how it evolves with the world and how you really push or how this narrative is really pushing forward. This is just an amazing experience. Aloy is that character, like you said, that has become this kind of new mascot for Sony, and rightfully so, because I was so caught up in her story and how it all comes together. It's just an amazing experience. I can't wait for Forbidden West. And definitely my number one on the PlayStation.
Nice.
Okay, great discussions, guys. I hope you all have a little bit more time. We're almost 2.5 hours into the show. What was originally planned as a 2-hour show maximum. So
this is what happened when
proud.
Yeah, you're doing awesome. This is what happened when we did the best indie games of the generation. On we went 3.5 hours or something.
Listen, man, you just enter an ILP territory. That's all that is. That's all that is.
That's
what it is.
So I really hope you all have a little bit more time, and thanks for everyone for still staying with us here. Let's talk about the Xbox next. Who wants to go first here? Let's do Indie Gamer. Would you do us the honor to start here with your number 3 on the Xbox?
On the Xbox list, okay. So the other, it's tricky because there's a couple in here which have sequels, which I probably would go both on here, but I'll save that. I think I'll class it as a one pick for the 2 games essentially. You can probably guess what it is now, but anyway, I'm going to start on the number 3, which is kind of it's a little bit of a shoehorned in one again. Apologies, but it was released on Xbox first for a short amount of time, and this one is basically, I'm trying to get in my games that I like, but this one is going to be Inside, which has to be on there because Inside is amazing.
Okay,
Great.
Yeah, so it was actually released on Xbox first, so I think that qualifies. I hope, but anyway.
Absolutely counts.
It was a superb experience. You know, that game is one of the finest indie games out there. You know, the team making that game really put the time into the craft. They really took the time to make it just right. They take their times on their games, but and they've got another one in the process at the moment. But yeah, Inside is it's something different. It's got a different feel.
Preach.
It's the puzzles are very cleverly done. It always leaves you questioning what's going to happen. What's happening with this story? What is going on in this world? You know what I mean? It's got the intrigue there, which I really love about it. But the art style is quite a muted art style, but it's beautiful in its own way. It's very nice. It's there's stealth elements. Dodging through. There's some very clever puzzles with the mind control thing as well, if you remember that stuff. Yes. That was just really outside the box, I thought, and just different. But yeah, that game is it's kind of when I really felt that I was really getting into indie games as well. So it's like in 2016, and I was really starting to think, hang on, let's get really into this stuff and play more of these kind of smaller experiences. It inspired me to do so. But yeah, it's one of those games where it's a kind of a seminal experience almost. Yes. So really looking forward to seeing. It was an
exceptional experience.
Yeah,
no doubt. The sound, everything.
Yeah, exactly. They do it. They've done it all in their own way as well. Like I say, the art style is very different to any other style of game, and it's beautiful. And yeah, the ending is very. I won't ruin it, but the ending is quite something. I'm sure. Yeah, so that I'll leave that one there, my friend. But it's an awesome game.
So Ainsley, let's go to you next. You're number 3 on the Xbox.
Yeah, so I may cheat a little bit. So I was first. Let me call out Sunset Overdrive.
Nice.
Yes.
I absolutely loved that game. It came out early in the generation. It was an exclusive from Insomniac. Many people may forget that Insomniac wanted to make from a passion perspective, but no one else would pick the game up. And Xbox team gave them the freedom to do that and encourage, they really promoted it. And sadly, we didn't see the sales for the title. I think it was just maybe too far out there for some. Mm-hmm. But if you allow yourself, if you have, funny games and sense of humor and games that don't take themselves too seriously, Sunset Overdrive was an incredible experience, particularly back then, because it was one of the first full open worlds in next gen, or at the time, that had no loading screens.
Yes.
You could just traverse through it.
Yeah,
it also,
the
traversal was very, very impressive. And the combat and just the hilariousness of the writing and the weapons and everything else in that game were fantastic. And whether, I joke about this with Dan all the time, but whether you like it or not, Insomniac definitely took some of that foundation for Spider-Man.
Oh, absolutely.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just love that game, and I wish it would have sold better. I still hope at some point in time, we've learned now, of course, with Insomniac being part of PlayStation, that Microsoft allowed them to keep the IP too. So, we may see it in Sunset Overdrive 2, maybe, I hope, sometime in the future. It's unlikely, I know. But I don't care what platform it is. I would definitely play that. The only other reason I said I wanted to cheat, because I do have a 1 and 2 that are clear, is I just want to give a quick shout out to Cuphead. We mentioned it earlier. Cuphead, it's not a directly Xbox game, but it's one of my favorites of the entire generation, and I just wanted to give it a shout out.
That is absolutely fair. And I usually want to go last, of course, but since you brought up Sunset Overdrive, I'll just jump in here because it's also on my number 3.
Nice.
100% behind you. I remember playing that game and just having so much fun. The humor was there. The traversal was amazing. It was just a fantastic game. And one of the best Insomniac games after Spider-Man. It's just awesome, and that's why I put it also on my number 3.
Yeah.
But let's move on here to Mr. Boomstick. Let us hear your number 3 on the Xbox.
I mean, when you're talking about exclusives, it was hard list to make up, but for me, it's going to be Gears 5. Because of everything that they've done for the changes that I wanted. It went from being a bro dude shooter that just you hid behind cover to this open world, semi-open world, exploration. Again, you could run through the story and just continue to be the dude bro. Except you were using a female lead, which I thought was fantastic. But I loved everything about Gears 5. I'm looking forward to Gears 6. And I think you guys are going to be very, very surprised by my 1 and 2.
Ooh.
Yeah, okay. Gears 5, definitely a great choice. So, Lord Cognito, before we go to your number 3, I just want to catch up on 2 of the super chats. The first one coming in from Gaming Forte. Congrats on your first live show. Glad to see someone like you with great opinions showcase and your thoughts with the rest of us. Plus loved your panel. Thank you so much, man.
What's up, Forte?
Appreciate it.
Nice.
Arrested Destiny, brother.
So, and then we have Wandering Dutch again with a super generous £5 super chat. Awesome first show, brother. Congrats again. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Dutch.
Really super appreciate it. Okay, Lord Cognito, let us hear your number 3 on the Xbox.
All right. My Xbox list, again, it's very, very strange, very different from most. Not going to be the typical list. I'm warning y'all now.
How boring would it be if we all put the same games in there, right?
These are the games for Cog. Remember that. I'm putting a caveat. There's an asterisk next to it.
Is Destiny coming up? Is this why he's prefacing this so long?
He's going to save that hopefully for the third-party games.
Yes, we'll get there. But for Xbox, it's different for me. This generation was different. So for me, I'm going to get a lot of crap for this, but I got to talk about what I played a lot. And it was initially Rise, Son, and Rome.
Yes.
Rise, Son, and Rome.
Highly underrated.
It's a story of potential. And when I get a console, and I never forget, like, you want something to graphically showcase your system. You want to know what's the difference between last generation and this generation. And I'll never forget that E3. When I saw that game and they had the shields and it was like, hold the line. And I'm like, that's the game? Now, granted, there was some QTE involved, but it was literally what that was when I got it home. And I was blown away. To this day, it is one of the greatest 900p games I've ever seen. like this game, I know, graphics, it is not everything, but you got the co-op aspect, the multiplayer, you have some connect functionality in it. It, to me, is just a travesty because the foundation for that game was set for it to be something more special. And I love the narrative. I love the Roman lore and all that stuff, the Centurion. So yeah, I mean, it's the what could have been game for the gen. And I still hold it dearly. Every iteration of Xbox, whether it be Xbox One X and Series X, I pop Rise in. And this is still unoptimized. It's still not, you know.
It's such a shame that it never got a patch.
Still looks phenomenal. So I'm holding on with Rise, man.
Were you like me who used the Connect where you say
fire
and you fired it?
I was in my war with Marius. That was the joint, son. Yeah, I like it, man. I was a huge fan of Rise of the Road.
Yeah, I remember playing Rise, and my wife came into the room and said, "What are you yelling all the time?" It was just fantastic. Okay, let's go to number 2. Let's start with indie gamer. You.
Excuse me. Okay, though this one might surprise you if you're expecting another indie game. This one is going to be Forza Horizon 4, guys. You could probably put Forza Horizon 3 and 4 in that because they're both epic, really. Yes. But I live in the UK, as you know, and it coming to the UK. That particular one was really exciting, and it was honestly amazing to see what they done with it because it would just. The villages and everything just felt so real. It really did. They'd done an amazing job of it. The game, is already solid from Forza Horizon 2, to be honest, because I love that. I probably played that more than the others, to be honest with you. I've played a ton of Forza Horizon 2 and 3, and 4 again. It's just brilliant. I love a good racing game. My man UK Dazzler, shout out to him. He loves a bit of racing as well. And we like talking about racing games like Dirt and stuff. Sidetracking again. Forza Horizon is just one of those games that's just perfectly made. It's everything is spot on. The festival feeling is great. I mean, maybe it's going on a little bit now. Maybe they should change a little bit of direction, but you cannot deny that it's incredibly well designed. The way, with all the way it just flows, you know what I mean? There's no sort of it just feels real, like you're part of a world, and the events are just there at your hand. Like I said, though, the world coming to the UK I thought was super cool because it did really feel like home in that game. The street signs being in the UK sort of style, if you know what I mean, that kind of stuff. It's just it's kind of surreal to see it in a way. But I'll keep it quite short. But I adored that game, and I will be going back to it for some more action too, as well, with these community game nights that keep happening. I'll leave it there on that one. But
great choice. It is a fantastic racing game. I have to admit, I probably spent more time in Forza Horizon 3 though. For some reason, I just love.
A lot of people
Australia.
say that actually. I've heard a lot of people say they spent more in 3 actually. Yeah, I think I just love the UK being its home country or whatever.
That's what I was too. When I saw it going to England, I was like, all right.
It was in New York. I was there.
All right. Let's hear from Boom. Number 2.
Easy. Ride Son of Rome.
I didn't think nobody was going to say this game.
Listen.
Go, Boom.
I put it to this way. Again, I will never be privy to be working for Microsoft, even being within an elbow's reach of Phil Spencer. Mm-hmm. But there are 2 things that I would tell him if I ever got the opportunity. 1, immediately greenlight Rise Son of Rome 2. And secondly, buy Crytek ASAP, because the Cry engine for a game that is literally going in on 8 years old is one of the best looking games to this day.
Best 900p game
on the Xbox One. And what's crazy is our very good friend Cog K Mega was posting about he posted some video of what the game looked like on the Series X, and it looks like what you would expect Sony to produce. And that was an Xbox game. And if there's one particular game or a genre that's missing from the portfolio, it is that over-the-shoulder, third-person, adult-themed kind of content. And sure, were the QTEs maybe overdone? Yes. But you know something? We've seen games from Sony evolve. Uncharted 1 to Uncharted 2 is a big difference. And we could see the same iteration brought to Rise Son of Rome 2 that explores more of the Greek Rome that we saw, and the mysticism that was highly talked about and even suggested towards the ending of that game, giving this character a ridiculous story arc. So yes, it would be easily Rise, Son of Rome.
Ooh.
Yeah,
nice.
Very nice choice. I mean, nothing to add to that. It is a fantastic game. It's a shame that we have never seen a sequel. It's a shame that we never got an upgrade, an enhancement patch for it. And I'm 100% behind you on the Crytek purchase. Not just because I want a German Xbox game studio, but the technology that they put out is just amazing. So yeah, Ains, let's hear your number 2.
Yeah, number 2 would have to be Gears 5.
Nice.
So I'm a big Gears head. People know that. I love Gears through and through, and that game evolved. Boom said some of this, right? It evolved a franchise that needed evolving, but not too much to where it got away from what makes Gears great. It's an absolute technical showpiece. Even today, with what Coalition has done with Series X, I would put Gears 5 at the literal top of any console game right now, alongside, a handful of games.
Yeah.
It's special. The story is really strong. The writing, keeping Marcus there and making him still be meaningful while passing the torch, if you will, to Kate and the next generation. Just the writing, the characters, the level design, the new enemies. And then that's before even getting into the multiplayer, which is still, excellent. They continue to revise that, and they just had a massive update last week, if you haven't played it in a while, where they brought back maps like River from Gears 2, and they got 120 frame support, and they brought all the classic skins back. It's just, that is a game that evolved the franchise, brought it into the AAA limelight, while at the same time paying homage to its history and its fan base, and that should be celebrated, in my opinion. I love Gears 5.
Yeah, me definitely too. So, Lord, did I get your number 2? Yeah.
Oh, my number 2. This is tough. I'm gonna go with Indie Gamer. The Forza Horizon series.
Awesome.
Yeah. Because I'm gonna be real. Like, I know who motorsport is for. I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I know age. I know. And so, like, you guys want to mess around with the carburetor, and I get it. Like, that's just not me. I respect the graphical fidelity, the attention to detail, the simulation aspect. I respect it. It's just that it's just too much for me. And it's something about Horizon where it's just like the old school arcade.
Yeah.
You got your music rocking. You go anywhere, do anything, festival vibe. It appealed to me, and I'm like, yo, they got me. I'm a fan of this series, and I'm not the greatest racer, so that rewind feature is amazing. I'm a star at my house. So Forza Horizon, man, I just think they truly. I hate the fact that with the Forza series in general, that Xbox doesn't get enough credit with the high level of quality year after year with these games. And people try to just say, oh, it's just a racer. No, these are quality games. And yeah, the Horizon series as a whole, really enjoyed it. Obviously the UK, obviously. Now all I need is probably like a little like Tokyo, Japan or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Maybe I need a little, some midnight drift kind of vibe. And
now we're talking.
Yeah, and then
neon colors and everything.
Yes, neon cyberpunk kind of vibe. And then I'm in. But Forza Horizon is not only a graphical achievement, it's fun. The cooperative aspect, doing the races with friends. What was it, the Hot Wheels one year?
Oh yeah,
it is
one of the best DLCs ever.
Oh, it is amazing. Yeah. So salute. Yeah. So I'm so happy for Playground just to see what they do now next, because they conquered that casual, fun kind of racing game to get me in, and I can't wait to see what they do with things like Fable and so on.
Oh yeah, that's going to be awesome. For me, the number 2, it was really hard, to be honest, because I want to give a shout out to a couple of games. Quantum Break is one of those games.
Good game.
Recore, highly overlooked game. I had such a blast playing that. Of course, Forza 3 and 4, Forza Horizon 3 and 4. But my number 2 goes to Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
Woo! Yeah.
You could easily put in Blind Forest there, but I think Ori Will of the Wisps was just the involvement of that, and I can't emphasize enough how much I loved that game. The platforming itself, of course, was top notch. It was beautiful. The music gives me goosebumps every time I hear it, and it told such an emotional story without having a word or a sequence or anything. It's just amazing, and it's easily one of the game of the year contenders for me this year, and definitely my number 2 on the Xbox. So, and with that, let's move on to our number 1 on the Xbox. Lord Cognito, could you do us the honor and give us your number 1?
I want to hear it.
I'm weird. I'm different. Just put the asterisks in the caveats.
You're among friends.
I love it.
These are guilty pleasures. These are games I spend hours on, and it's Gears Tactics.
Wow, dude, great.
Great pick. Listen,
what a great pick.
Turn-based is one of my favorite genres, and I was worried to see how they would integrate the universe of Gears. I knew it would fit, but how well? And we had Splash Damage on the show. And the thing about it is, not only is it done well in reverence to the Gears universe, right? They do something completely different that the genre's never seen, which is these overwhelming odds. And then you basically have the execution mechanics to keep going again to kind of give you a chance. Because technically, if you play it like a traditional turn-based, you're not winning this. Like they're just too much of the locust and stuff like that. But the thing that makes it great, and Gears, I'm gonna get a little. Ains, you're gonna give me a little flack for this, but
easy now.
I know I'm about to go crazy. I'm about to say something controversial, but I feel the cinematics. I'm not going to say the story. I'm just going to say the cinematics in Tactics.
No, I'm with you. I already know where you're going.
Graphically are superior than 5. It is mind blowing.
It is
how amazing it looks.
Yeah, and similar to maybe like Halo. Halo Wars had good cinematics compared to Halo. Maybe
made by Blur. Yeah, they're up there. Definitely some of the best all time. No doubt.
It is truly amazing. And then I get the prequel aspect. With Gabe Diaz, his cast of characters, you get to learn what was happening before, Kate was even born.
Yep.
And last thing I will say, I play a lot of turn-based games. Yeah. Most of them don't handle boss fights well. The production value and the mechanics in the boss fights in Gears Tactics are the best I've ever seen in any turn-based game. When you literally have to work together and use mechanics, and it's a showpiece. So Tactics, people are screaming, Xbox doesn't have. Give Tactics a shot on Series X if you haven't played it. It's amazing. It is amazing, and that's my game. That's my game for them.
You mentioned Gabe because he's a great character, and he's Kate's dad. For those who may not know, but if you are a Gears fan, the reason I jumped up real quick is just to pick this up. This is the book that is between Tactics and Gears 5 and tells the history leading into Gears 5. It's really, really good.
I gotta get that.
It's
Ascendance?
Really good.
That's what it's called, Ascendance?
Ascendance, yeah.
Yeah, I'll pick it up.
Yeah.
Nice. I have to look if I can get that here in Germany. Nice.
Hey, Archimedes, if you wouldn't mind, can I go next because I gotta get out of here by 3. I gotta go pick up Mrs. Boom. So I'll give you my number 1. I don't think it's gonna shock a lot of people. Titanfall, my number 1 Xbox. That's a game that I have over 1,000 hours in. It is a game that I became, obviously in Call of Duty, which I don't play online, they have prestige levels of leveling up once you've maxed out your level. So I've never done that. Call of Duty's never been my thing online. Titanfall, on the other hand, is I prestige to the absolute max. I got every achievement in the game. I absolutely loved it. It's funny because it comes at a time where I had a massive spine surgery to reconstruct my lower spine, and because I was stuck, I couldn't really move around. I was healing. It gave me the ability to run on walls and drop G1 level mechs.
Yeah,
Transformer
there we
G1
go.
mechs.
Let's go.
You know, when I was sitting there calling to drop my Titan, I thought of Robotech from the 80s.
Oh yeah,
You know what I'm saying? And when I mean, I'll never forget. You know, you're surrounded. You know, you had a bunch of the NPCs drop by. You had a few other of your opponents coming at you, and you drop a Titan on them, and you see them just get crushed by this big thing. You jump in and you start just whooping ass. It is probably one of my favorite multiplayer games of all time. Titanfall. It's because you say, well, wait a second. Titanfall is not an Xbox exclusive. Actually, it is. It is. Titanfall 1 was an exclusive, and I got news for you. And I'll say this with someone who had put just as many hours into Titanfall 2 online. It absolutely curb stomps Titanfall 2's online multiplayer because of the fact that you could customize them next to what you wanted. You put the weapons loadouts that you wanted. You weren't stuck to a particular mech and a particular loadout. You could make the mech, literally customize it to what you want. It is by far one of the most underrated Xbox One exclusives. And it literally put Respawn on the map after leaving Activision the way that team did. And it's still one of my favorite. In fact, I played it a couple of weeks ago, tried to find a match. Not a lot of people playing it, but let's hope that they do merge the Titanfall 1 gameplay with the Titanfall 2 single player and bring us Titanfall 3 next year. That's what I'm hoping for. Listen, I want to say this. First of all, I wish I could have stayed for another hour because I could talk games all day long. It has been an absolute pleasure to be on your first show.
Thank you so much for being here, Boom.
Dude, absolutely. I mean, as much as you support my channel, the least I can do is get out in front and support yours. If you're not subscribed to this man, I don't even know what you're waiting for. And again, this has been a masterful 3 hours, and it doesn't even feel like we've been here 3 hours, to be honest with you. But of course, the company is in itself some of the best podcasting in the business, in my opinion. I consider them brothers, family. It's certainly an extension of my personal family. And it's been great, man. So listen, enjoy the rest of your show, guys. Congratulations once again on a huge, successful first show, Boxer Bear. And I will see you tomorrow on the new episode of the Xbox Factor podcast.
For sure. I wouldn't miss it. Boom. Thank you so much for being here. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Yes, absolutely, guys. Have a great day. Take care.
Awesome stuff. Boom. Pleasure. Take it easy.
Bravo.
All right. Now, Lord Cognito, thank you for bringing up your number one. That is a great pick. Again, I just wanted to mention one thing there, heading on Gears Tactics. I started that game on the Series X now.
They added Jack. They didn't have all these new mechanics now that the PC
you get the choice whether you want to play with the new or the old rules. I chose old rules. And I played a couple of hours of it. And then I really said, okay, I have to postpone that game because it's so good, but I'm distracted with so many other things now. So many games are coming out, so many videos to do, 2 consoles are out there.
2 consoles, I hear you, brother.
And I said, this is not what Gears Tactics deserves. It deserves my full attention. It's amazing. Okay, I didn't get Ainsley's number one pick.
I'm logging off because I need to go play Titanfall. Boom got me way too hyped up.
He got me hyped to play Titanfall again.
I know, man, because I was right there, Titanfall, and he said correctly, my biggest disappointment with Titanfall 2 is the multiplayer because they changed the function and the map design, and in my opinion, they kind of ruined it a bit. But despite the campaign being brilliant, but that's another topic. In my number one's going to be predictable, and I thought about it, as you reached out to us, Archimedes, and we started kind of taking our notes, and I was like, it just has to be this. I don't know why I can't pick this, and that's Master Chief Collection. It has to be. I've talked a lot about it. We all know the game launched in a broken state. It was a disaster. It was a black eye for 343, and we know the history of it. I won't get into, but if you look at that collection today, and I had this debate a few weeks ago with someone, is that when you think about collections of iconic games, there's a few out there. Orange Box was always a kind of one that's held up on a pedestal. I'm struggling, and I know I'm biased. I'm a Halo fanatic. I know this. But I'm struggling to think of a collection of titles that now, at this point in time, can top Master Chief Collection. You get 6 games, Chief Saga, plus obviously ODST and Reach, which are in their own incredible games. They continue to update them. They're now series enhanced as well. You can play them at 120 frames. They're all 4K. They have, seasonal progression now. You can play. They have playlists to play multiplayer in all of those games combined. You can go into a playlist and just play. You'll be surprised with whatever map and game, Halo game, just all in one. There's nothing like it in the industry. There's nothing like it. And you're talking about almost 20 years now of 19, actually just the other day, 19 to be exact, of just history of very iconic shooters. And it's a collection talking about game preservation that stands head and shoulders above anything else, in my opinion. So
100%. I was on the fence of including it or not. I didn't include it, and not because it doesn't deserve to be there in the top 3, just because it's basically all remakes or remasters and older versions, and none of these games launched actually on the Xbox One. That's the only reason I didn't include it. Otherwise, I would definitely put it in the same pedestal there, because, like you said, it's an incredible collection. The best fan service you could wish for if you're a fan of a gaming series, and just an incredible collection.
Yeah. So I was kind of in that same place. It's like, do I include this? But I can't ignore it, especially as a Halo fan.
I get that 100%.
They continue to iterate. It's such an ambitious thing, and I love that they continue. They didn't stop after the start, and they just keeps adding on, and you see it's growing. And I love that you got Reach and ODST in there. It's just, I gotta try. Have you tried out the 120 yet? I gotta try that out yet.
No, because I won't get into it. But I'm on a 2016 OLED, so I'm not at 120 yet.
Gotcha.
But it is. I did load up Halo 4 the other day in 4K 60, and it is shocking that was a 360 game. Yeah. Absolutely shocking.
Yeah. I gotta fire it up, man.
It's incredible. So anyway.
So what would I pick for number 1? Gears 5.
Okay. All right.
It is strong. I'm just a sucker for Gears. I love it just as much as I do Halo. I love Halo. It is. And Gears 5 was an incredible experience. The story was amazing. Getting some of the background for the Locust Queen and everything. This was a highlight. I loved how they tried to advance the game with the open world elements. It wasn't an open world game, but it had certain aspects of it, and the light RPG elements that got introduced were just awesome. It was a graphical showpiece. It still is. I can't believe that game ran at 4K 60 on the Xbox One X.
No doubt.
Played so fantastic, and we had an incredible multiplayer. They finally nailed that again. It was probably the best multiplayer since 3, and
great horde mode too.
Oh yeah, horde mode was so well done. Also the new
mode,
escape mode. Also a lot of fun. I really love that game, and it is my number 1 choice.
Nice.
Okay. Great talk, guys. So let's move on.
I've got a number 1 for you if you wish.
Oh, pardon.
Sorry.
How could I forget? I am so sorry.
No worries. Go ahead. No problem, my friend. It's just I wouldn't want this one to be left out because I love it so dearly.
No. I'm so sorry.
No, don't worry, my friend. So I mean, that like it's like Ains was saying, and like everyone was saying, there's so many games here that it would be easier to make obviously a top 10 or something like that. But with this one is without a doubt for me the number one, regardless of how big of a list it is, and that is Ori and the Will of the Wisps, my friends. Yeah. It's an absolute masterpiece. I use that word all the time for this game and a couple of other games, not many games that I would say masterpiece level, but this one definitely is. And I mean, it's so many reasons why it makes up to be such a wonderful game. I've kind of like this kind of is number one is I guess like Blind Forest as well as Will of the Wisps because of the limitation on the amount of slots we've got. But Blind Forest to me was a masterpiece as well, and with Will of the Wisps it just takes it up that extra notch. The combat in the game, obviously the original game didn't have much of a combat system. It was mostly about the platforming. But yeah, with Will of the Wisps they did an amazing job of fleshing out that combat system, and the game is designed in a way where you can play it in many different ways, different styles of combat. You can take different routes of which you want to play. If you want to use the hammer, want to use the bow, etc., etc. But yeah, it just comes together as such an amazing game. You've got the I love Metroidvanias in general anyway. That is a game style that I adore. And it's the sense of discovery in the game, uncovering the beautiful world that is within the game. The characters and the story is beautifully emotional and just a pleasure to like I say uncover, and the combat is good fun as well, which they fleshed out as I say. But yeah, musically obviously outstanding, one of the best soundtracks you could possibly hear in a game. Visually absolutely stunning. It's just it fires on all cylinders, and it's a game very close to my heart, and I will definitely be playing through it again soon because I need another round of it, to be honest with you. Another fix of it.
Played on the Series X. It looks amazing.
Yes, amazing.
I love.
Anyone played it in the 120?
Yes.
I played it on 120 on PC.
Yeah, I did the 120 multi. Outstanding.
Yeah. I haven't.
But to be honest, in this game, I prefer the super sampled version, not the 120.
Yes.
Because it just looks so crisp, and the contrast is incredible when you play it in the 6K version. Yeah.
So many games I got to get back to, man. I love Will of the Wisps. I finished it and love the game. I just haven't played it on Series X yet.
I just love the way it just keeps you interested. There's always something new to discover and uncover the world. It's just it's got that sort of feel to it, in my opinion, where it's just like a sense of discovery, which is always a yearning thing. But yeah, that is my pick. Awesome game.
And it is a great choice. I zeroed out there.
Thank you very much.
Let's move on to the third-party games. There we have a list, tons of games to go through, and this was really hard for me. I don't know about you, but let's hear it. Ainsley, what's your number 3 on the third-party list?
So I struggled here because I have a clear top 2.
Yeah, I know what those are.
I think anyone who's ever listened to me talk ever.
I know what number 1 is.
That's what those 2 are. But for number 3, I really struggled. I was walking around my game room, looking at my shelves, looking at steelbooks. I was like, what's going to be number 3? So I'll just throw this one out there because it's meant a lot to me personally, especially now, and that's Dark Souls 3.
Nice.
So Dark Souls 3 is not only an incredible game, in my opinion, even after playing Demon Souls now on the PS5, I think Dark Souls 3 is the pinnacle of FromSoft games. Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3 can go back and forth, I know, but Souls for me is that game. It also... I don't even know what to say about it. It's just incredible from a level design, from a character design. The boss fights are just those cinematics, and how they set those up are bar none some of the best in any game. And just the community around it. Some of the similar things I said about Bloodborne. So I beat it when it came out. adored the game. I recently got into streaming a little bit, and I just streamed a whole playthrough of it, including the expansions.
Yeah,
and it just made me
I've seen you play that game. Yeah,
yeah, it just made me appreciate it even more, especially after playing the expansions. And I've watched playthroughs to understand the lore, because the lore can be deep, and it's just an incredible game through and through. So there's probably 50 games I could have put here at number 3. Yeah. But Dark Souls 3 is one that kind of jumped out for me.
Yeah, nice choice. I'm right there with you. I'll get to my number 3, but number 2 and 1 were super easy for me. Or super easy is probably much, but it was obvious which are those two. But the number 3 was really hard. So, Lord Cognito, let's hear from you.
I think Boom stole my thunder. Titanfall, man. Titanfall. Nice. The series. Like I said, I'm a huge Respawn fan. When I realized when I was into Call of Duty, in the Modern Warfare era, at the start of it, I didn't realize that was them. Those are the ones I held dear. And to hear when they separated from Activision and then did their own thing and then Respawn, and like Boom said, when they debuted this new series, this new franchise, and that wall running was really revolutionary. It was a truly game-changing mechanic. And then as I know Wazo games in there, Ains in there, we're talking G1 Transformers. Now you throw the mech aspect in it, and it's like I'm controlling a mech, and the ability, the difference between the pilot and the mech and operating independent. You can work together.
I was just gonna say that, like having it as your sidekick and everything.
Yes, so it literally, I felt like I'm spiking Transformers. I got my own Autobot that I can do what I want, and it was just so good. One of my favorite modes was Last Titan Standing. And the only thing you could say wrong about the first game was that they didn't do anything narratively, right?
Yeah.
Because the game was amazing. So to hear the 2 come out, and man, like the story between that character and BT, was truly amazing. I understand Ains makes some valid points about the multiplayer. I know it's not, some people don't love it as much. I still liked it because I did like some of the variations, but I do feel that I agree with you guys that there were some things that they necessarily shouldn't have changed multiplayer wise, but I liked Frontier mode and like almost like their version of a horde mode with Titanfall. And I always love those type of cooperative, me and other people together against waves of enemies and stuff like that. So the replay value was tremendous. I can't wait for 3, whatever it, I'm pestering Vince. Got to make that 3, man. Let's go. I know Apex is Apex, and I know it's a huge, it's successful, and I understand that, but I need Titanfall 3 because I feel it was a travesty what happened to 2 releasing it so close to Battlefield, and it never got the shine it deserved. That's what I feel, and it's still technically great. You throw that thing on and it's amazing. But Titanfall series, definitely one of my top third-party games.
Well, very nice pick. I'm glad you put it in there because it deserves the love. Okay, Indie Gamer, let's hear from you.
Okay. Again, this is tough, very, very tough to just do 3. It's a bit similar to, kind of how you guys have been saying. The top one is very easy kind of thing as it stands out in your mind. But I'm going to say for my number 3, I'm going to say What Remains of Edith Finch. So maybe it's like not expecting, but potentially if you know me well, you might have known that might be coming up. Just because it's just an incredible narrative, and just intricately crafted in a way that it's just I don't know, it's just interwoven the stories. It's just amazingly done. Like if you really dive deep on what's actually going on in the game, it's pretty incredible. It's one of those games again, like I said with Journey, is afterwards you have to look up what the hell's going on, and not in a bad way, in a way where you just want to understand more about it. You know what I mean? That's me anyway. If I love something so much, I want to know. I'll look up like those critique style, not reviews, where you'll see like people who talk about they sort of break down a game because of what it means and stuff. I quite like that sort of philosophical stuff if it's something that warrants that kind of thing. And What Remains of Edith Finch really did deserve that, and I've sort of seen some really good breakdowns on it about what it's all about. But yeah, it's extremely powerful storytelling in that game, and it sort of transcends the genre, the platform of of gaming. Regardless, it's more powerful than a lot of films. It's powerful, in any respect. It's just. I've definitely shed a few tears in that game, and
it definitely gets to you. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, it's sad when you break it down as well. Like I say, like there's some of the stories in there. I don't want to ruin it if you haven't played it, but like the one I think it's Lewis where you play him and he's doing the fish heads, and you take control of sort of the monotonous task of doing the fish heads on your right hand, and then you all of a sudden you become in this sort of like trance-like state in another part of the screen where you're kind of like controlling yourself going through this mystical world where it's sort of like imagination world, and it's sort of losing track of reality, and it sort of just it's just clever the way they do it with your control. You actually do it that cognitive sort of thoughts on one hand, and the other one is still doing the fish head, and then you sort of lose track. But yeah, the powerful nature of the game and the incredible storytelling makes it definitely has to be mentioned from myself. I won't go into. I could talk loads about it, but the more you talk about it, the more you ruin the story, if you know what I mean. So
I was
highly recommend.
I haven't finished it, so
yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, but there you
go. You gotta do
dive
that.
in. It's only a short game.
I played that game earlier this year because it was
wow.
sitting in my backlog like forever. Played it, I think, in February, March, something like that.
Very good experience.
And it is an amazing game.
Highly recommend it. Yeah, it's the art style and everything is really uniquely done, and it's just fantastic. Yeah,
100%. Okay, my number 3 from the third-party games. I mean, like Ainsley said, I could easily name 50 games. Just a quick shout-out to the Tomb Raider games, Hellblade, Shadow of Mordor, A Plague Tale Innocent, Red Dead Redemption 2. Yes, it didn't make the cut.
Wow.
Jedi Fallen
Ainsley's
Order,
not going to talk to you anymore. Ainsley's not going to. What you said about Red Dead, he's not coming back.
I know. We had this discussion.
You've already been there.
I only have like 5 or 6 games that I consider a 10 out of 10. Red Dead Redemption 1 is one of these games. So my anticipation was so high. And when I started it wasn't a bad game by any means, but it didn't hold up.
I'm trying to have AIDS come back.
Yeah, that ice is like
very thin. I know. I want to keep you in the show, so I'm just going to my number 3 and Cognito. That will make you very happy to hear because it's Destiny, the series.
Tell him why though.
I was on the fence whether I should put Destiny or Diablo 3 there.
Oh no!
Aid's about to have a conniption. He said, "You can't even believe you could compare the two." Tell him, Archimedes, preach the good word. Tell him.
I tell you why I disqualified Diablo 3 because it was technically a 360 game. For the same reason.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Fair.
Let me save it like that. See, Destiny is. I'm not the extensive Destiny player like you are, God. No way. But Destiny is something really special because it is a game that kept me company basically this whole generation. I usually play Destiny when a new DLC or something add-on comes out. I play it, I level my Guardian to a certain light level, then I rest it a little bit, wait for the next expansion, and so I really always come back to Destiny 1, and then I moved my Warlock over to 2, so I still feel like I'm attached. I'm attached to that character. It's just great. And one thing that Destiny does so well is the mechanics of the strikes. Because we have that rarely in games that you do these kind of co-op or multiplayer missions that you can play and enjoy with other gamers without talking to them. Because I am honest, I sometimes really do not like to talk to strangers when I play my games. It's rare that you find like-minded gamers when you are matchmaked. And this is really something special, and I have never seen any other game adopt it in that kind of way, that you just jump in a strike, play it with other gamers without talking to them, and I really love that concept. And besides that, I'm just loving the looting and the grinding, and and every time you get a new item, I'm so happy, and I can't wait now to play Beyond Light in 60 FPS.
December 8th.
Yes,
I bring you all into the fold. December 8th,
but then December 10th, you lose me. So
yes, I got you for 2 days, Ain, so I ain't worried about
2 days.
I got
2 days.
strong days with you.
Before Cyberpunk comes. Oh no, and that's why I really had to put in Destiny, and it is also kind of a game that, well, at least on console, defined this whole games as a service type of game, and we have seen a ton of those games during the generation. But Destiny was really the first one. So yeah, that's why I had to pick Destiny for number 3.
And one of the few surviving ones.
Yes,
you know,
100%.
it's thriving. You can't. I love to give Call crap about it. We know this, but everything you said is true. There's a lot of positives there. They're obviously doing something right because it does have a huge community.
Yeah.
What I saw this weekend on the raid, particularly because of my stepson who's here now, was just hugely impressive, and the community kind of coming together to watch this. So it is something special for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, then let's move on to our number 2s. Ainsley, go first.
Here we go.
Yeah, this is tough. Yeah,
I know it too. I'm just
you know, they're obvious. I struggle between 1 and 2, and I go back and forth. But at the end of the day, my 2 is Red Dead Redemption 2. The reason being, so if you don't know me and know how much I've talked about this game, I will take on the debate with anyone on any day at any time.
I know
that the game world in Red Dead 2 that Rockstar created is the best open world game ever created. World. It is not even debatable in my opinion if you've played enough of that game to truly experience it. It is that game is something special. I get it's funny, Archimedes, what you said of Red Dead 1 being one of your favorites of all time, but 2 losing you. And I heard the exact same thing on Bigcast this week with their guests. And I hear that pretty frequently. And I do get it because that game is a slow grind.
Yes,
and
exactly. The pacing is its problem. You are absolutely right. The world is incredible. It's zero doubt about that. But the pacing is what didn't do it for me.
Yeah. And I can see that, so I understand. I think for me, I had done so much research on the game ahead of time. I knew what I was getting in the cowboy sense. It's like, if you really want to get the most out of this game, you better put in your head that you are now a cowboy in 1890, right? And that goes all the way down to the way the game's designed through and through. And so I kind of invested in that fully. And I mean, like, I knew I was going to put hundreds of hours into it and take my time. And I did that. And I played the online for a bunch too. But I just think the positives of that game, Arthur Morgan as a protagonist, one of the greatest of all time, bar none. The writing and the story, where it eventually goes, and the world and everything you can experience that game. It just puts it so far above. The negatives don't take away from it enough to pull down the positives, in my opinion, because the positives are so far ahead of everything else. So that's my number 2. I could go on for hours,
and it definitely deserves to be in that list. I mean, everyone's list is different, and I'm really not saying it's a bad game by any means. It's one of the best games of this generation, no doubt. It's but like I said, it's just the pacing that I get it. Was a little disappointed in, and that's why I didn't include it in my top 3. Yeah. Okay, but let's hear from Cog. What is your number 2? Because we probably all know what your number 1 is.
I know that. 2 again, just the love of turn-based, and again the amount of hours I put in was XCOM 2: War of the Chosen. Nice. That game, it is extremely difficult. And I definitely consider myself, expert level turn-based player. And that game challenged me in ways like, I mean, literally, I think I had this conversation with Matt Piscatella, who loves the genre, and he's like, I couldn't get past like the first 30 minutes of the game. He said it was just too difficult. It's overwhelming. And basically they add mechanics into the game with these chosen characters that have these really tremendous abilities that can happen at random times at any point of your match. And you could be towards the end of a mission and then this thing comes out and it could literally wipe out your team. So it's one of those things where you truly feel the alien population is against you. You have to work against the clock to research technology, to try to find them, just to survive. There's permadeath, so there's so many of these things going on. And then you slowly start turning the tide, and then you get to a point of powerful. But I understand it's not for everybody because, again, that first hour or two, it's so brutal. It's unforgiving. And you have to, utilize every resource you can. But it's really one of the best turn-based games I've ever played. If you love tactical combat, setting up position, strategies, flanking, and it's really good. I can't wait for part 3. I'm so glad the game came to console. And my only thing was at the time it just loaded really slow. It's awful loading. So I was like, when I got the 1X, and I gotta try it on Series X. That's like I have not tried it on Series X yet. But XCOM 2, War of the Chosen. If you love turn-based, that is a really fantastic game.
Fantastic choice. I'm glad you bring a little diversity in there.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Mine are boring, so yeah.
That guy's got the epic stuff.
Nice. So, Indie Gamer, what is your number 2?
Well, my number 2 is it is Celeste, guys.
Great game.
How many of you played that?
Good
Fantastic
Yes,
game.
great game.
Yeah, awesome stuff. So Celeste is amazing for a few reasons, in my opinion. That obviously the gameplay is absolutely awesome, super tight and satisfying. It's like that precision platforming gameplay, which is like Super Meat Boy style, which is super addictive and really fun. It can be tough at times, but that's part of the appeal in a way. You pop back in once you drop down dead, and then you pop back in, and then you do it again, and you get it right. But it's a very fun to play game, as in the gameplay style. But for me, the thing that makes it so good is the way it fuses the narrative with that awesome gameplay, and the narrative being focused on like anxiety, which is quite a tough thing to tackle in a game, but I think it does it so well. The fact that it's also like the fact that you're climbing a mountain in the game is like a metaphor as well for it's like figuratively and literally speaking, you're climbing a mountain, and also you're climbing a mountain against anxiety, if you see what I mean. So it's kind of I really feel like it's done well in that way, the game is tough for a reason in a way as well, because beating things like mental health problems and stuff like that is a tough thing sometimes, and I can relate to it a little bit myself too, which I won't go into too much detail, but it's just a relatable story for me. For that reason it's exceptional. The game is a super fun game to play. There's some really cool mechanics in the game as you move forward. You actually at parts you actually sort of have to go face off against your sort of like alter ego at parts and stuff, which I think that's really well done. Just Celeste is a fantastic game, and it's also in Game Pass too now, as it's dropped into Game Pass quite recently, which is pretty cool. So if you're on Xbox, check it out through Game Pass. I highly recommend it.
Oh yeah.
It is a fantastic game. I played it actually on the Switch, but I really loved it. Fantastic
Awesome.
choice. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, what is my number 2?
What you got?
Assassin's
Creed.
Pardon me?
Which one?
No, I said let's hear it.
Yeah, Assassin's what?
Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I didn't put in Valhalla. I didn't finish it, and it is for me a next gen game because I didn't play it on the old console. So, but Odyssey is, it is an amazing open world RPG. Like I said earlier, I'm loving these open world games, and I know it is controversial because a lot of the Assassin's Creed diehard fans just think the Assassin's Creed series isn't Assassin's Creed anymore. But I really loved how they evolved the series into these open world action RPGs. And Odyssey, I spent probably 250 hours or so in that game. Did so many of the side quests. I explored the whole world. I played all the DLC. And it is just... just scratches my itch. What I like, it's an easy to approach open world that is beautiful to look at. I spent like probably 20 to 30% of the time in photo mode.
Yeah, I've had that problem.
That's me, Ghost of Tsushima.
I'm doing the same with Valhalla too. Valhalla's the same way.
Valhalla is the same way, exactly. And Ghost of Tsushima was definitely the same. The same, yeah, no doubt. And it just it was one of these games where I just sat down and just, man, I'm having fun. This is why I love video games.
Facts.
When you have that kind of feeling, it has to be on that list here. So yeah, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, my number 2.
Very strong.
Good. Okay, guys, let's do it. Number 1 third-party games. Let's start with the indie game.
Let's go.
Was that the indie gamer?
Yeah, the indie gamer.
Botted it. So, yeah, cool. So it's kind of built up to this point, which I would probably class this to be my best of all the games. Although Ori and the Will of the Wisp being on the top of the Xbox One game, you could probably put it on par with that one, I suppose. But my top of the multi-plats is Hollow Knight, guys.
Wow.
So yeah. Wow. Definitely a game more people need to check out. It's similar to when Ains said about the community for like Bloodborne and stuff. There's a community for Hollow Knight which is die hard and it's awesome. But yeah, it's got that sort of feel to it as well. But yeah, the game itself is absolutely fantastic in my opinion. Again, this is a complete masterpiece situation here. Hollow Knight is definitely in that realm for me. Probably the game, one of the few games I would give a 10 out of 10, especially if you're judging it on a review sort of basis where you're actually Ains has dropped up. Archimedes has dropped. I was just going to say, especially if you are judging Hollow Knight on a review basis, because the value proposition for it is literally ridiculous, because it's on full price it's only $10.99 in the UK, $15 in the US for Hollow Knight, it's a game that you can put over 100 hours into easily, like I did myself. But yeah, Hollow Knight is a masterpiece. It's a Metroidvania game. Again, that sense of discovery is awesome. It doesn't hold your hand by any means, like a lot of these Souls games.
It is tough. It is tough.
Yeah, but that sort of plays into it makes sense for it to be that way in my opinion, because for example, when you're making your way out into the world for the first time, you don't have a map or anything like that. You have to find the map maker Cornifer guy, and you have to find him yourself. Once you've found that, you can then discover the map itself. So that is, it kind of makes sense in my opinion, because the game's about discovery and finding your way in the world, and the world itself, Hollow Nest, is so well designed. It's an absolute pleasure and joy to discover it all. The worlds, each individual section of it are amazing. It's just the combat is awesome in my opinion. Very tight again, very nice sort of like punchy sort of combat where again it never feel like it's your fault if you make if it's never like it's the game that's messing up. It's your fault if you know what I mean.
That is a really great point, because this is really important for these super difficult games.
Definite,
that they
100%.
never feel unfair, and
it's never unfair. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you, Archimedes. But yeah, just to round it up, the art style in the game is so beautifully done, hand drawn art style. Sound in the game is on the level of Ori. It's like right up there with the best of them. It's more of a sort of very somber sort of soundtrack, but it's amazing in its own right for sure. The boss battles are awesome. Kind of like the Dark Souls kind of bosses. They're awesome in that kind of game. They're great bosses in Hollow Knight too. But yeah, I highly recommend diving into it if you haven't. Some people get put off of it. Some people try it for a little bit and then maybe they think, oh no, it's not maybe for me. If you persist in the game until you get to Green Path, I can guarantee you'll fall in love with it and you'll want to finish it all. But yeah, that is my top pick. I love Hollow Knight so much.
I couldn't tell.
Sorry about that.
No, never apologize.
I love it. It's a passion, brother.
I do love it. Thank you.
I'm about like maybe a third of the way through that game. I have a friend who sounds just like you when he's talking about that game.
Really?
And I've really enjoyed what I played so far. It's just one of those games I need to get back to.
Yeah, I was going to ask you actually, because I knew you were a Souls fan, and so I was going to ask you if you had played it. So yeah,
I love 2D games. It hits all the right notes, and I love what I've played of it so far.
Yeah, it's also, and like when you get to the end and you've got like the Colosseum-y bit where I don't know if you've reached that bit where you go into it and you have to sort of do these 3 Colosseum sort of fights.
No.
You play a toll, and then you go in and fight a bunch of different bosses and they come at you kind of like a sort of waves. The last one of them is intense. It took me quite a lot of tries, believe me. So yeah, they like throw loads of bosses at you one after the other kind of thing, and you're locked in. It's pretty cool. I think persist, my friend, you will love it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I got to get back to it. Yeah.
Ainsley, you definitely have to. It is an amazing game. Great choice for the number 1. Cog, I want to go to you next because I think Ainsley and I do have the same number 1.
Yes, I know we do. Yeah, I know we do.
So go ahead.
Oh, you know what it is.
I know what it is.
You know what it is. Listen, man. I mean, it's funny because when I look back 6 years, and if you would have told me that I'd be playing this one game consistently for 6 years, I would have laughed you out the room. Like, there's no game I think I've ever done this with. That's what's so weird with Destiny. Like, it was, I initially started as not that big a fan of the game. I thought it was okay, but I remember when I played it, and we all know the hype and the hoopla when it came out.
Yeah.
And, I didn't feel it necessarily hit that mark. I thought the gunplay was great. I thought the music by Mario Downer was phenomenal, but when I got to the end, I was so used to playing it like a traditional game. So when I got to the end, I was like, all right, whatever. And I put it down. And shout out to my boy Sinister and a couple other people in the clan. They were like, look, you're not at light or whatever it is, you got to get to a level 30. We're going to get you. And I'm like, for what? They're like, you have to do a raid, Cock. You have to do a raid. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I was begrudgingly forcing to play. Like, okay. I was like, you guys going to hook me up? Okay, cool. So I'm like in people's backpack to just do this thing. So I'm doing it. And then I'll never forget, it was the Vault of Glass. Yeah. And I implore anyone, who has heard about Destiny, never really liked it, until you do your first raid. Again, it's the most amazing cooperative experience, in my opinion, in console gaming. And it requires communication. It requires tremendous teamwork. It is one of the most exhilarating and challenging things at the same time. But once you master it, it's like going to war and like you survive Vietnam with friends, and you're like that person's your brother. He's your brother for life. Like, you defeated Oryx with this guy. You know what it is, and it's something to be said about it. It's just, like I said, they don't get enough credit for how well this thing is designed. And the thing about it is, like, again, the gunplay to me is just unmatched.
It's on point.
The weapon,
so good.
It feels so good. The weapon design, the exotics, the way these things, they're crafted, they just look ornate. They just look like these special things. And then I'm always going to be, shout out to, we had Sky Lewin on Last Word. And he's one of the musical composers he came from behind Mario O'Donnell, behind Michael Salvatore. And we just had him on. And to me, it's a travesty that this game does not get nominated. I get mad that it doesn't get nominated for music, because the music is phenomenal. It truly is. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think for 6 years, what it has shown me is that everyone, I think, in the industry tried to mimic the console MMO, console game as a service, and to varying success. But the difference with Destiny, besides the gunplay and that addicting quality and the loot, it's also the fact that it's like the end game. And I think where a lot of these other games make the mistake is they don't have a raid, or not a mistake, but they just don't have that hook that once you get of level, what else are you going to do, right? And I think with Destiny, there's the PvP, there's the Trials of Osiris, there's the PvE, there's the raid, now there's dungeons, and people are like putting up clips of 3-player soloing stuff and everything. But look, at the end of the day, I'm surprised, I'm still playing this thing, and I love it as much as I love it as day one. And the last thing I'll say, and I'll always die on my sword for this, I've been around a lot of communities. It is by far the best community I've ever seen in gaming. The sheer friendships I've made because of Destiny. I mean, my co-host Ivantis, I met at a convention, and then it was just like magic from there. Someone that had the same passion as me. I've met countless people because of this stupid game, and it's just I can't put a finger on it. It's the weirdest thing. If you would have told me 6 years ago, I'd be still playing this game with the same intensity and fever that I did from the beginning.
Yeah,
and now it's in Game Pass, so now y'all got no excuse to not join.
No excuse. And I'm right there with you. That's what I said earlier. I'm not as invested as you are, by far not. But it's a game that I always come back for 6 years now. This is incredible to me, and I've never had that with any other game. I usually play a game, finish it, move on, and that's it. It's hardly for me that I go back to a DLC, because even that is sometimes, if a half a year or so has passed in a game I have played, then it's hard for me to go back. But Destiny just has that hook. It always brings you back, and I can absolutely understand why you put it on number one.
It's had its up and down, but like you just said, for a person like you know, you may come in, you do what you got to do, and then you come back. That's that quality, right? Even if you don't stay with it all the way through, there's always people always come back. That's the thing about Destiny.
I just can't stay away.
I've never seen anything like that. That's you know I was gonna blow V8 on Destiny.
Great choice. So Ainsley, I think we have the same number one.
Here it comes.
Let me do
how we want to tackle
you do the honor and tell why The Witcher is the game.
We're at 3.5 hours. I don't have another 5. Witcher 3 is God. What can be said about it that hasn't been said? It's there's a reason it's the most awarded game of all time.
Yeah.
It is phenomenal from top to bottom. God, I don't even really know where to start. So it took. Remember, this came out early in the generation, which is hard to fathom now, right? 2015. It's been out for over 5 years now. It took Witcher 2, which was a celebrated game, but nowhere near what Witcher 3 was like, right? It completely brought this book series into this open world RPG aspect. And they created not only a world, but characters and stories and discovery, a sense of discovery that hasn't been topped. In my opinion, when you look at all the factors. So I talked about how Red Dead 2, this is where I struggle, because Red Dead 2's game world is the greatest ever, in my opinion. But when you take all the factors, game world plus characters, plus mission and leveling design, what you can discover in the game, Witcher 3 is unmatched. And in my opinion, it's not only the game of the generation. I firmly believe it's one of the greatest games of all time.
100% agree.
Yeah. It's just if you go into Cog's talk about the community around Destiny, and certain games develop hardcore communities. And if you're not aware, Witcher 3, even by itself, not as a series, but Witcher has a community like that. And I mean, there were people discovering things in that game 2-3 years after release, where it's like, if you do this mission this way and then you go to this spot in the world, this is sitting here, whereas it's not normally sitting here. And just there's amazing, incredible things in that world. And I've played through it fully twice. I'm on third time, multiple copies of it, and you still can just discover things in that game. But the writing and Geralt as a character and his relationship that you can have with Triss and Yennefer and the other characters. I mean, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, their development team said that Witcher 3 side quests, right, were the blueprint for what they were trying to do with Valhalla. They missed.
He threw the shot.
It made Valhalla better. Some of the side quests in Valhalla have that flavor, but to that point, in 5 years, none of these other big open world games with huge budgets and development, they haven't touched it. They just haven't. So I could go on and on and on, but Witcher 3, in my opinion, is bar none the game of the gen, and just one of the greatest all time. So Archimedes, please add on. I know we can talk about this for a while.
Yeah, we could. I mean, you basically went through all of it. I have 4 full playthroughs of the game, including all DLCs, and
you didn't have to show me up now. All right.
I'm in the middle of my 5th right now. Excellent. I had the first playthrough when the game came out. I did a second playthrough about a year after. I did the third playthrough on the Xbox One X when that enhancement patch came out, and I did a full playthrough on the Switch of that game. And I'm now, and I just bought the Game of the Year edition because you get new achievements again with it. And
I did that as well. Yep.
Exactly. Now I'm in the middle of my 5th playthrough, so
and we get the Series X upgrade next year.
Yes, I'm definitely going to do another one when that game comes out with ray tracing and everything. Now, it's like you said, there are only a few games that really raise the bar in quality of what a video game is, and Witcher 3 was one of those games. It's to this date bench for open world games. It's not just that the world is incredibly well crafted, it's the characters, they really feel like characters. They get to you. Basically every side mission has its meaning. It's not just fetch quests and stuff like that. It's so well done. You have really the feeling that your decisions, the decisions you make, have impact. And
they do.
And they really do. In every playthrough, I'm doing certain things differently to just see what happens then. So I have had 3 different endings now in the 4 playthroughs that I finished. And it's just incredible to see how this all comes together. And besides that, the simple mechanics of fighting, I really love that. The things you can do with the science and the way how you can customize your character. It is an incredible experience. I wonder whether Cyberpunk will be able to match that.
I was going to bring that up.
The pressure's there, man.
So even before you get to Cyberpunk, though, we haven't even mentioned that the expansions.
Yes. I wanted to get to those.
Probably the greatest expansions ever. In fact, and I say this often, I don't know if it's still true. It was at one point, but Blood and Wine was the highest rated game on Steam of all time.
Facts.
I didn't know that.
It was like 99% approval rating. It's just Blood and Wine, in my opinion, again, is the greatest game expansion for any game ever made.
Yes, 100% agree. It's better than many full games out there.
Yeah, it's like, man, CD Projekt Red is putting out expansions better than your whole product. What are you guys doing?
Yeah, it really is. And you said it. It's your game of the generation. It's definitely my game of the generation. Gentlemen, what would be your choices? Lord Cognito, Destiny, probably, right? If you had to choose one game for the generation,
it's easy to say that, but for me, I'm actually not gonna. I'm gonna surprise you all. This game, it's weird because I judge it. This is how I look at it. Destiny obviously is gonna be my favorite game, for the obviously. Yeah. But I look at it, if I could bring someone in who either has moderate interest in gaming or none. And there's one game that every time I show a gamer, non-gamer, or whoever, they get addicted. Indie gamer, you're going to be proud. It's Inside.
Oh, yes.
It is Inside. It is something about, and then nice. I enjoy watching them play in this dystopian world, not knowing what's going on. And then I think what it is, a lot of people who don't game anymore, they're very intimidated by all the control. They can't do first person. They can't. It's just too much, right? Yeah. But Inside is literally you move for the most part left to right until you get to
minimalistic, isn't it? In controls.
Right. And it's this dystopian world with this little boy. It's dark, and you're like, "What the hell is going on?" And they can't stop. And then they're like, "Okay, don't tell me, but like, do you think I should move this switch here? Like, give it a shot. See, and you just see the light bulb go off." And nice. I've started a lot of people off with this game, and they've beaten it. And I'm just like, wow. And that game, it has some parts where it's challenging, but
definitely.
and like inside the Indie Gamer said, there's so many takes. You have to end this game. Like, there's so many philosophical takes you can make on this game as to what is actually going on. And I've had these type of discussions and podcasts with people, and the interpretation aspect, right? Especially the secret ending when you get all the globes and you figure out what's going on. But that game doesn't get enough credit. I come from that vein of games like Another World. I had the pleasure of meeting Eric Chahi, who created that game.
World. Shout out.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I come from that, and I love when the game doesn't hold your hand. It doesn't, but it tells us it's atmospheric storytelling, where you don't know what's going on. You're in this world, what's happening, and Inside was that feeling for me. So Inside is a game. Doesn't matter who it is. I can show my mom that game. And she'll be like, what's going on? I got it. And they'll sit intently and watch and see what's going on. That's how great Inside is to me.
Brilliant. That is awesome.
Nice, very nice choice. It was something special, and for such a small game, I've never seen so much conversation on social media channels everywhere. People were talking about that game for weeks after launch. That was really incredible. Indie Gamer, what would be your pick for Game of the Generation?
I guess it would be, as you probably guessed a minute ago from your reaction for what I said about Hollow Knight, it probably be Hollow Knight. I would say so. That's what I've written down. But yeah, everyone who speaks to me on, I think every podcast we've done so far on the Indie Games podcast, it's come up in some fashion. It's been I've managed to get into conversation, even if it's not a topic. You know what I mean? It just happens to come up all the time. It's the benchmark, if you know what I mean, for me. But yeah, like the immersion in that game, it's remarkable. I've said a lot about it already, so I won't take up too much of your time. But I wish. It always upsets me though. It's a shame that some people don't take it on, because I do understand that, it can be a little bit intimidating, the lack of hand holding and lack of waypoints or whatever, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it rewards you in spades if you just take the time to give it a chance, kind of thing. It's
so many games like that. They can be the word a lot of people use is punishing, right? You hear that about the Souls games all the time, but
absolutely,
if you invest and overcome, you can really what you get back from it is really special.
The feeling of accomplishment.
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah, that's what I said about Celeste. It really it's quite a tough one as well, and you get that feeling of overcoming when you sort of it's like the metaphor.
Like on my Dark Souls stream, like you'll see me. There's certain bosses where I beat it, and I'm almost like jumping out of my chair.
I literally was doing especially when I mentioned that part at the end in the Colosseum bit. I was literally going mental. Honestly, it's just have to be so precise with it, and I think my hands were turning to water, like, because I was sweating so much,
Start shaking a bit, like you're sweating.
But I love that though. That appeals to me. That kind of thing.
That's great, man.
Sometimes you fail a fair few times, but at the end of the day, it's fun at the end of the day, isn't it? Because you overcome it.
Great choice. Gentlemen, I think we are at the end of the show. I planned to have a 2-hour show. We're closing it on 4. I'm really sorry for that, but I want to really thank you for taking the time. I mean, we've had a really tremendous generation with the Xbox One and PlayStation 4. Yes, there were a lot of controversies, but we also had a ton of fantastic games, and that's in the end what it's all about, fun of video games. And I really appreciate you all taking the time out of your busy schedule, taking 4 hours to discuss everything. I really had a blast. But before we leave, let everyone know where they can find you on social media, on YouTube, on your websites. Lord Cognito, thank you so much. Where can people find you?
First of all, Archimedes, thank you for having me on. This was a fantastic show. Obviously, I know you went ILP long, but listen, man, you for your first podcast, what a panel! All these guys are amazing guys in the community. big fans of each indie game. I always appreciate your support whenever I do cover the indie games, because I'm like, yeah, somebody that appreciates them. Like
always, my friend.
Yeah, so salute to you. I've always appreciate your work. Obviously, Ainsley's family, you already know, Season Game, and love what he does, love what he represents for the community, and just no nonsense about games. And obviously, Boom is my brother. Like we talk all the time. One of the few podcasters I actually talk to off air and off line. So you're on your way, man. Your content is fantastic, Archimedes. So keep up the good work. This is a great start. And don't stop, because as you can see, the people they came out, they showed support. And for me, you know me, man. Lord Cognito on Twitter. You already know Iron Lord Podcast on YouTube. Every Sunday is the Lord's Day. Check us out. And obviously, if you're a fan of Destiny or you want to get back into the Destiny universe, the last word with my brother Ebontis. That's every Friday. We try to. Sometimes the days mix up based on a special guest, but if you can, please. We had I don't usually ask for support, but the interview we had with Bungie's musical composer Sky Lewin I was very proud of that interview. We just had that this Friday, so if you want to check that out, it's up on Iron Lord Podcast. It was a really strong interview, and just his history in general, coming from TV shows like Entourage, CSI Miami. He's done a lot of musical scores outside of just gaming. And it was just really cool to get his ideas on that. And last but not least, lordsofgaming.net. I saw Darth Chalice in there, a lot of our writers from LongNet. Again, these are the gamers for the gamers, by the gamer kind of thing. And to see the support you guys give lordsofgaming.net is truly appreciated. Thank you for having me. This was a fantastic show. I love these type of shows.
Thanks again for being here. It was really a blast talking about it. And just again, for everyone, if you are interested in any of these links, they are all in the description of this video for every panel member. And before I get to you two guys, I want to catch up on one last super chat before I miss it. From Sean Zhu. He said, I feel like I just binge watched the entire first season of Archimedes.
That was season 1.
You can break it out into episodes.
I can break it out in episodes, right? That's true.
That's hilarious.
Thank you so much. Okay, so Indie Gamer, let us hear. Where can people find you?
Indy's probably muted on both sides.
Oh, he double muted again.
Double muted again, Indy.
Oh no, sorry. Double mute. I'm so sorry. Oh dear. Sorry guys. Thank you. Honestly, it's been an absolute blast. Thank you so much, Archimedes. I'm so I don't like to say proud, but I am proud of you, my friend. Because you don't need to be looking down on you being proud, but I am proud of you because you're a good buddy, and I love all the conversations we have about gaming, and I really respect you at the highest degree, my friend. So I'm so pleased that you've been able to start. And the reception today was fantastic from the chat. Loads of people came out and joined us. So thanks so much for all of those guys. Honestly, it's a total honor to be alongside people like Lord Cognito, Ains, and Mr. Boomstick. I've been on Boom's show a few times, so we know each other well. I've never been alongside Ains or Lord Cognito. Honestly, I'm running behind. You guys are in the flash car up front. I'm running behind, trying to catch up. That's been me today. But yeah, it's been an honor, guys, because I watch you guys a lot, and I have so much respect for what you do. You always bring awesome takes and positivity to the community, and so much more. It's just been a blast hanging with all of you guys, and thank you again, Archimedes, for having me on. It's been so much fun. You can find me if you wanted to. Here. My pleasure, really is. If you wanted to find me, guys, you can find me. I have a YouTube channel which covers indie games, as you might have guessed, all focused on indie game coverage. So if you're into that, then drop on by. It's YouTube.com/The Indie Gamer, all one word. And on Twitter, I'm at indie_gamer_01. Come and chat indie games. I always love to chat indie games, as you might be able to tell. Thank you so much again, though, Archimedes. It's been so much fun.
No, thanks again for being here. And I highly recommend to check out your YouTube channel. It's my number one source for all things indie games. I really love these videos about the best top 10 indie games coming in the next months, and so they always highlight some of the indie games because they are really hard to discover. There are so many out there, and you do a super fantastic job with your YouTube channel, and I couldn't recommend it more.
Thank you so much, my friend. That means a lot.
I truly mean it. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, Ains, before I get to you, I got another super chat coming in from the wise old gamer who has shown a super tremendous generosity today. I super appreciate it. It was great with the G1 talk. It's mad time for me. We must do this again. Time for me to show number 2 who's the boss. Till all are one.
Till all are one.
Transformers reference.
Yes. Okay, thank you, guys. Okay, Ainsley, let us know what you're up to. Where can people find you?
Yeah, man. No, so first of all, yeah, congrats, Archimedes, on the
Thank
success you've seen and this first show, which was fantastic. We joked that we'd gone 4 hours, but the reason we've gone 4 hours is that because it's been a great conversation, right? You don't go 4 hours talking about nonsense. So, no, it's been a blast. Love all these guys. Some of the best around. So thank you again for inviting me. I think all these guys know you can find us at seasongaming.com. Everything you need is there. In terms of our podcast, it's every Saturday, and articles. We had new article up today, new reviews, just a lot going on with us. And it's actually our 5-year anniversary is next week on December 1st.
It's been 5 years already.
5 years since I literally started a blog by saying, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I've seen the growth of the site. You're getting in more and more people creating content for the site, and it is really a great success story. And I'm happy to see that a site like Season Gaming can have such a success, because it is unprecedented with the non-monetization. And I really am glad and happy that you guys see that success. Well deserved.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's not easy. But we make it work. And it's crazy. 5 years ago, I literally just started a blog by saying Season Gaming is coming. That was the post.
Nice. That means you have to do it then, don't you? Sort of thing. You've committed to
exactly. I had to plant the flag, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So no, it's been a lot of fun. And Cog and I have talked about the same thing, man. Just, what it takes to try and grow a community and a site. And it's a lot of work, but it's like we were talking about. It's a lot of work, but it's rewarding, right? It's been a blast. So love you guys. Thank you again. I won't go on. Just you can find everything you need on the site. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you again for being here, Ains. Wouldn't have been the same without you. I know you were busy today.
I'm still working over here.
Master of multitasking.
Guys, so thanks everyone for being here today. It's really been a fun show. I wouldn't have expected so many viewers in a first live show on my channel. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Thank you so much for all the super chats that came in. I super appreciate that. I hope you enjoyed the show. As much as fun as I had, I bet this wasn't the last one.
That's correct.
And I hope everyone takes care, and I see you around. Okay, bye guys.
Peace.
Later, guys.
Yep.